when did you even decide to step down? How did that come along?
So I guess this goes back to when we're planning our boot camp in Europe, and from how I explained it to like the organization is that I will resign if the boot camp is like super positive, you know, like we're showing good signs of improvement and practice is fun, you know, everyone's like motivated, everyone's doing like team oriented stuff. But I mean, obviously that didn't happen.
A Wimbleway, a Wimbleway, a Wimbleway, a Wimbleway, a Wimbleway, a That's not the song I wanted. Fuck. Do you guys know the one? In the jungle, the mighty jungle, the lion sleeps tonight. This is the weirdest intro I've done. And I tried to Google it like just in time to land this on point, but I fucked it. So let's pretend that didn't happen. All right, I'm going to just reset myself here. You guys haven't laughed or anything yet either, so this is fucking great.
I appreciate the performance here.
I was expecting like a delivery or some like pun or a joke at the end of it, but it was just
the song popped into my head before we went live, and I thought, fuck it, I'm gonna run with this, and I didn't get there in time, so we didn't land it, but it doesn't matter. We're here, HLTV Confirmed, episode 23, season bloody 5, and as you can see, we've got the regulars here. Lucas, any problems tonight that you're forecasting?
Nope. Hopefully everything works.
Okay, and before we get to introducing everybody else, we need to mention that the show HLTV Confirmed is brought to you in conjunction with Extra. I keep going to call them Extra Fly because I've made this stupid little fucking jingle. It's Extra Fly. They do mice, they do keyboards, they do mouse pads. I'm using one of their keyboards right now. They're sponsoring the show, so you'll see some ads from them later. Thank you for the support. Anyway, let's keep this one flowing. Prof, do you know the song I was even talking about? The Lion Sleeps Tonight.
Yeah, I know it.
Okay. How old? I don't even know how old you are, Prof.
I'm like not that much younger than you.
Okay.
I'm almost like 30 in 2 months.
Okay, so you're a boomer like me. You're gonna get those kind of references. All right. Are you a fan of The Lion King?
Yeah, I mean it was a legendary movie. Like when I was a kid, you had it on like VHS. People don't know what that is, but yeah, you had it on that. You had to rewind when you came to the end. It took like 5-10 minutes to get back to the start of the movie when you wanted to rewatch it. So
it was
cool times.
It was pretty difficult back in the day. Striker, what's your favorite Disney movie?
The thing is, I don't even know. Does the recent stuff like Marvel stuff count as Disney?
Is that
movies?
Disney?
No, we want like Disney like cartoons.
Actually, Disney.
Come on.
Give me some options, man. I just can't really think of anything.
Well, you can say that you hate Disney and you don't like childhood.
I used to like them.
Stories and the shit. And
Toy Story was good. Toy Story was pretty good. Yeah,
Russell,
sure.
do you have a better answer than Striker's given? Do you have a favorite Disney movie?
See, I'm trying to see because I haven't
seen Frozen, for example. Like I have no idea.
As
I know that's surprising, but I actually haven't seen Frozen.
He just got an ace. Yeah.
Probably one of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies.
Okay, that's a fair call. See, there we go. That's the outside of the box thing.
See, I didn't even know that was a Disney. That was from Disney, you know.
Now I've already fucked up the start of this show, something cruel. So let's just jump straight into the hot seat, and then I'll introduce Russell for real. Let's do it, Lucas. All right, welcome back. I've done my best to derail this before we get started, but let's get it underway here. This is the real introduction. We have none other than absolute sensation from North American Counter-Strike on the show tonight. It is Twistzz. Now, you guys, you've probably seen his bloody hair, and a lot of you are asking questions about it, but we'll get to that later. That'll be at the end of the show. We get to playtime. We've got a lot more serious things to talk about before we get there. Now, what I want to do, Twistzz, before we really start digging into the nitty and the gritty of the questions, a lot of people, well, not a lot of people, if they're Counter-Strike fans, they should know where you are. But for those who maybe aren't too familiar, what's your situation right now? Where are you? Where are you playing Counter-Strike? What's going on so that they can kind of understand the scenario that you find yourself in?
Okay, so I guess get people up to date. End of 2020, I left Liquid, my North American team that I was part of for almost 4 years. Or I think it was 4.5 almost. Anyway, now I'm in Cologne, Germany. Playing EU Counter-Strike.
Okay. And that's actually the 2 points at which I want to start at. The first one I want to jump into here is when you announced live on stream after that grand final that you were no longer a part of the team. Was that like your choice? Was this your decision? You went, yeah, I want to do the interview. I want to go out there and make this statement. How did that all come about? Because that was a pretty, I want to say, I'm saying ballsy. Ballsy's not necessarily what I mean. I think it was a sick move from you to do something like that.
It was kind of an idea that I had earlier in the day, but I didn't know if it was possible or not, so I kind of wrote it off.
Okay.
But after the final ended, it seemed like the right thing to do. So I asked like Liquid, and they said no initially, and I fought for it because I felt like it was the right thing that my fans hear it from me instead of a report that goes out, you know, like the day after. And
Sure.
you know, if fans like don't know if it's true or not, then it's not fair to them, so I'd rather people to hear it from me.
Okay.
That's a alpha move. Definitely
Yeah?
an alpha move. That was pretty nice.
I don't think we've ever seen anything like that before. Have we, Prof Striker? I don't remember anything in my years of seeing a player take that responsibility on himself and do that maneuver. So I thought that was really cool to watch. And like you said, it was very clear. You know, you get to control the narrative. You get to be the one there telling everybody. So props for that one. I guess the next thing, and we will dig into a lot of the 2020 Liquid stuff, but mate, I've been watching your stream and you look like you are having an absolute ball. Like you look like you're having some of the most fun in your life playing those FPL games because you're like giggling, having a great time. There's comebacks. What's it like now to get to play? I know it's not competing, but you're just constantly playing FPL and with the best in the world. Is that a nice feeling to not have to worry about the lower tier North American pugs you'd been used to?
Yeah, it's a great feeling. I mean, I was never one to play FPL in North America purely for that reason. Not that, you know, I don't want to help the scene grow, but I feel like it's not an efficient use of time. Whereas in Europe, if I'm playing FPL and, you know, I have like Zipnix or Olaf on my team, like a veteran player, and I'm playing against good players, and there's something to learn. And, you know, the players I'm playing against are like legit and they're going to do smart things.
Okay. Yeah, no, because I've tuned in a couple of times and honestly, it just looks like you're having so much fun. So at least it's working from a double-edged sword. Now, we want to kind of go back and rehash a lot of Liquid within 2020. Prof, where would you want to start with this one if we're looking at the Liquid story in 2020?
Well, I guess probably with the kind of the shift to online, because that's where like the bad part, I guess, started at the beginning. Like you only played Katowice in Europe and then you went online and what was actually you won the first big tournament or was the second one? You won Pro League, right? If I remember correctly.
Online, yes.
Yeah, and then after that, slowly things kind of started kind of deteriorating for Liquid at least. So what was that part like, especially when at the beginning we didn't know how long this would last and all of that. So what was the thinking early on about the online era, right?
I think at first for a lot of the teams was the uncertainty, not knowing when things will return to normal, you know? So I think at that point it was okay, you know, like a small period of online CS for most teams until like, you know, maybe an event at the end of the year or something in person. And then I guess when people realized that there was not going to be any in-person event anytime soon, that's when, you know, I think the motivation for most of the players took a toll. And, you know, people are kind of like, you know, what are we playing for now? Yeah.
Sure.
Chad, just to stop you for a second, I think we're getting like some feedback from you.
From me?
Because I heard Twistzz back from your mic.
All right. This normally happens when I have my bloody volume settings too high or whatever. But let me see if I can fix that. And I'll try and fix that. But we'll keep these questions going so that I don't bottleneck the show too badly. Twistzz, when you talked about the motivation and stuff dipping, were there any issues going from 2019 into 2020? Like, was there anything, because you guys had the same makeup of the team, right? And obviously we knew that you have nitr0 in game leading, and then there's the bleed over of like Stewie doing a bit of AWPing, NAF doing a bit of AWPing. Were things feeling not quite right as you started 2020, or was everything looking like, hey, let's go and have another banger year, basically your third good year in a row?
I think there was a small phase of putting the end of 2019 in the past and trying to move on and kind of recreate ourselves as a team. But yeah, I mean, obviously from what you guys see, it didn't really work out, even though I think we only won one event in North America. So going from, the best team in the world to only winning one event in your own region, clearly things are wrong within the team. And yeah, I mean, sure, everyone got to see that.
Okay.
What do you think contributed to that early on, I guess? Because like it was pretty early on in the year that you kind of started deteriorating.
I think it comes down to individual stuff as well as how cohesive the team is. And I honestly think people just stopped like working well together with, other players. And, it could not be anything like personal. It's just like players aren't playing well together, and that's just how it is. But I know for me personally, I was experiencing some personal issues. I think around springtime that almost led to me benching myself, which actually in hindsight, I think would have been the better idea anyway for the sake of my team and myself. But that never happened. But yeah, that's just like a small thing, to be honest.
Can you tell me from that perspective, like from that moment, without maybe saying what's going on, personal stuff and stuff like that? What is it like for a player to be in that situation where you can maybe bench yourself, but the consequences of that are, what are you putting your team into? What is the future of you as a player? How people look at you in the future? Like, are you a reliable player and stuff like that? So how do you balance, like, what is going on in your mind at that time?
Well, the main thing that was going on in my mind is if I should continue playing or not. And obviously I had people within the organization trying to give me confidence that I could still do it and, things will get better. But I was in a very chaotic point in my life where I felt like CS became like you like practice almost every day, and say if like the team environment isn't great, then it was kind of like my whole day was just bad, and there was nothing good about it. And yeah, that's pretty much why I wanted to bench myself, because everything was not fun. But in terms of having to make that decision, I mean, I don't think there's really any uncertainty. Players take breaks all the time and they come back, at least like the top level players, and I still consider myself a top level player. And I think even if I did bench myself, I would still be in a similar position I am now.
Yeah, well, personally, having a look at the situation you found yourself in, it feels like it's even better. You obviously don't have Liquid to be a part of anymore, but now you almost get to not pick within Europe, but you put yourself in the place of all the best teams, and you're only 21, right? So you've obviously still at the very early stages, realistically, of your career when we compare it to a lot of other people. When you factor in this period of time that you were talking about, where you were thinking about benching yourself and you weren't enjoying that, was that before or after the addition of Grim?
That was before. That was, yeah, I'd say like April area, I'd say.
So did when he joined, did things get like better at all, or was it still like the same kind of atmosphere? You just weren't clicking?
I mean, to be honest, like some things happened during the player break in the summer in July that I won't really talk about in detail, but it still kind of I guess hurt my confidence. I mean, I guess I can just say it. I was at risk of being benched, and it didn't come to my attention fully until, the break was almost over. And yeah, it's like a small dent in the confidence, to be honest. But I think when Grim joined, it was like a new boost of motivation. I immediately missed nitr0, but I think Grim was great, and I was like talking to him a lot as much as I could when he joined, and it was like even though we missed a player, it was still a fresh breath of new air.
Okay. I guess when you're part of a team for such a long period of time as well, right? You were saying, what, almost 4 years? You were part of Liquid.
Yeah.
So when you're part of a team for such a long period of time, and obviously different players come in and out through the door and stuff, but you kind of feel like you're embedded there. Now that you've been able to take a step back from those moments that we're talking about, like, you know, where you weren't feeling motivated and or you were wanting to bench yourself, or you heard that you might get benched. Now that you step back and look at all of it, do you think this was just something that would have happened regardless of the whole global situation of COVID and stuff, or do you think like that helped compound the issues that led to this?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Basically, like, do you think that COVID helped accelerate these issues? Because we've seen a lot of people in 2020 go out with burnout because they were just playing so much in COVID. Do you think that kind of had the same impact on you?
Yeah, I think most things from COVID, our issues definitely accelerated, and I'd say it definitely accelerated my personal issues. And I mean, obviously, I couldn't really do much about it. I think, if anything, it affected the team more, I'd say, than individually. You know, I still think about, you know, what if Nick never like stepped down and we like ended up boot camping in North America or something? You know, maybe the 2019 NA Dream lineup would still be there to play today. But yeah,
all right,
we'll never know.
Yeah, so with that in mind, I'm just wondering about what the thinking was even behind kind of those changes early on, you know, with Moses coming in, and before that, obviously Grim when nitr0 went out. So yeah, what was just the aim with those changes, really?
I think nitr0 is pretty unhappy playing, and he just found like CS like dull, and he wasn't happy with like the team environment. And I mean, if you look at him now, he's happier than he ever was, to be honest. Well, probably not as happy as he won the Grand Slam, but he's up there, and he's really enjoying his time in Valorant. So I think it was a good personal decision for him. But I think the change with the coach thing was just because we felt like, the thing is, I feel like we traded off, you know, like losing Nick, we lost a lot of like the strategic side, because he was like a player that he was well-rounded. He's probably one of the most well-rounded players in all of CS. He could do literally anything. And we lost him. And then we also replaced adreN, which was our strategic coach, for a coach that's more like mental and, you know, tries to keep you like in the vibe for everything and like positive reinforcements. And I guess like looking back at it, it's quite the trade-off to lose your strategic coach and also your strategic player at the same time, and end up with like not like a rookie, but a player that's pretty unexperienced in terms of tier 1 CS, and have their attribute be like entering and stuff.
Yeah, okay, I go. It didn't add a lot more depth to the team. Yeah, okay, so that would have been a difficult one. Prof, did you have anything you want to jump in with here?
Yeah, no, I think we can continue on. But about Grim, I just definitely say he's a rookie, like considering his experience. That's like a classic rookie in my example. So yeah, fine with that one.
So what about from the opping perspective? Obviously, at the time, people would have expected you know to change nitr0 either for an in-game leader, you know, as they did now, obviously, or an opera as they did now, I guess. So like that change, this fallen change, kind of came like half a year too late, almost, or like almost 8 months too late, or whatever. Where we would have expected him to come in for somebody like him, at least, you know, who has either the in-game leadership element or the opping element, you know, coming into the team. And Grim brought neither. So why did you think that wasn't an issue at the time, I guess?
Well, the thing is, I think people were pretty aware that it was an issue, but I guess the options that we wanted were nearly impossible to obtain, to say the least. And honestly, like, I think Junior was still playing well at the time, but he wasn't like on our radar as much as Grim was. You know, you have Grim go like plus 50 versus MIBR, and you know, maybe he's the solution. And he ended up being a great player. But yeah, at the time, like, I do wish we like put emphasis on getting an opera at least.
I wouldn't mind digging into that just for a second, because you guys basically operated for the better part of 2 years without a primary AWPer in the traditional sense that we see with the other top teams, right? Obviously, at the moment, we've got Vitality with ZywOo, we've got NAVI with Simple, we've got Astralis with Device. You guys had nitr0 doing it. Obviously, you said he can do everything. He looks like he made a lot of sacrifices for the team. Stewie looked like he was picking it up a little bit, same as NAF, right? But you guys operated and competed without having a primary AWPer in that way for the better part of 2 years, and was still considered one of the absolute best teams in the world. Like, this is a broad question, so maybe in your head narrow it down to whatever the first thing comes to mind. But how do you feel that you guys were still able to compete without having, you know, that level of an AWPer contributing to the team?
All right, so I'll just be very honest about it. I actually think the AWPing online is something that's more overpowered than rifling.
Oh,
Because like, I swear to God, like online you can get away from so many situations AWPing. Like I feel like you could crouch peek anyone with the AWP and you're just gonna live and like get away with it. Where online you're gonna get punished for that.
okay.
And yeah, I feel like it's a big difference in play, to be honest.
Okay. All right. Well, that's something that I guess we would never have too much experience with right there. So that's a good little nugget. Do we?
I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense, right? Because like online play has not as much in Europe as in North America, but obviously in North America in general, it just went into a lot of the duos, you know, back kind of like a 3 years ago type of meta that was played at the time. So it kind of makes sense, you know, that it makes it much harder to play against uppers because people are just going to peek you in this meta, you know. So
that's true.
I feel like it kind of makes sense that that the upper kind of detracted from the team more than it used to.
Sure.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind jumping into it. We're getting a bit more towards like when this whole leaving thing came into fruition. You obviously spoke about potentially benching yourself and stuff. Was Valorant ever on the table? Is it a game that you enjoy, or is Counter-Strike the one for you?
Honestly, that was like a thing that I had to consider. I mean, even in like October, which is when like the decisions came to mind. You know, I have to the decision I have to make depends on like the future of my career, you know, and I have to think very carefully about it. But to be honest, Valorant was my last option, you know. Say if like the EU teams I wanted to join were no longer an option, then I would have been forced to.
Sure.
But that's not the case. Okay.
With that, just to get your opinion, because obviously we have hardcore Counter-Strike fans watching. So be honest, because I tell people when they go, "What do you think of Valorant?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's a good game, but it's still different to Counter-Strike." What do you think of Valorant as a game? Do you think that it's something that I'm not trying to get you to throw yourself under the bus here, but like when I play it, for example, it reminds me of Source. Like the models are bigger, they run slower, their heads are like the size of watermelons. I feel like the skill ceiling in Counter-Strike is infinitely higher than Valorant, even though there's a lot more like combinations of all the characters fucking pixie and wizard maneuvers.
I actually feel the exact same way. Like you can't play Valorant and look at it as if it's CS, because like the movement's very different. The mechanics even are very different. There's abilities. You can't do the same things as you do in CS. You can't dual peek, you know, like you're gonna die instantly for that. And yeah, I mean, Valorant's a fun game, but you have to play it a lot differently than CS for sure.
Sure. Okay. Prof, you got something you want to jump in with here as we move forward? We're going to talk more about the decision to leave the team and obviously what's on the horizon.
Let's talk about the decision to leave the team, because I guess that's super interesting as well. Like, when did you even decide to step down? How did that come along?
So I guess this goes back to when we're planning our boot camp in Europe, and from how I explain it to like the organization is that I will resign if the boot camp is like super positive, you know, like we're showing good signs of improvement and practice is fun, you know, everyone's like motivated, everyone's doing like team oriented stuff. But I mean, obviously that didn't happen, hence so why we're here now. But yeah, honestly, it's pretty sad that our boot camp was pretty sad, and I guess like the way we put it was very gloomy, and yeah, it was kind of, you know, a change needed to happen for both parties. And to be honest, my contract is already reaching its ending point, and for Liquid and myself, it was a better decision, I think.
Okay. No, it sounds like some relationships I've been in, mate, you know, where it's like, you know, we could keep trying, we might get through, but fuck it, you know, what's the point if we're not enjoying ourselves? So basically it was something that sounds like it was good for both parties here in a way, in the sense that you know, you're getting a fresh start, Liquid are kind of getting the same thing. When you look at, because obviously I see you tweeting at the boys after their games and stuff, so obviously you're still watching all of their matches. But with this, you're obviously looking for, it sounds like, I don't want to put words in your mouth, it sounds like you're looking for an environment where is any fresh environment you think going to bring you what you're looking for in terms of being a cohesive team, or is there specific players or specific personalities that you want to try and play with?
I wouldn't say specific players, but definitely specific personalities. You know, I want people that are like outgoing, you know, have the team in their vision, you know, like team oriented stuff, going out doing activities. You know, when you look at the Astralis team, like they're all at the hotel lobby eating breakfast together at 9. You know, they're together every chance they can get, and that's pretty much what I want to.
Okay, and something that feels like a team, right? I think that's one of the things, right? Like a lot of people, obviously I've been retired for way too long now, but people go, do you ever miss competing? And it's like, I don't miss competing. Like I miss the competitive vibe, but I miss like my teammates and stuff, right? Because like you grow very close with these people that you're spending every day with them. You know, they're people that you actually want to make sure that you're enjoying your time around, right? So I guess that's a pretty important factor to make sure you have. Striker, do you have anything you want to jump in here with as we're talking and as we're moving forward with this?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I wanted to ask about the last tournament because everybody obviously attributed to that second place to like this dream round where like the team already knows it's broken up, you know, that stuff. That's something that people often bring up, you know, when a change happens right after a result like this, where it's obvious that it had already happened before that tournament, right? So was that even the case, or do you just feel like you just clicked for some reason? What happened there?
Honestly, I was pretty like, I guess I was shook before the event because that's when the news was given that, you know, we've mutually departed ways, and it was still very hard in like my mind to play because even though I chose the left, I'm still very attached like the org in terms of how much I enjoyed being there. I think that they're one of the best orgs for sure, like hands down, and it sucked to leave. But yeah, I was definitely, I'd say, up until like the Shaw's final, I was pretty like on edge. Like from like how the situation like broke down, I feel like the team like environment was like pretty weird. You know, everyone knows, but no one's like saying anything. And I was kind of just like, bro, what's going on? And I guess like before the final, I was kind of like, you know what, it's like it's happening. I need to put in the pass. I need to play like the best game that I can play to end off on the right note.
So why did it work then? It sounds like it was just a horrible environment.
No, I think it was just, I don't even know how to explain it, but it's not as bad as I'm like making it to turn out to be, you know, like we're still like all like talking, like I was getting everyone coffee before like the match and stuff, or like, you know, I'd go and get people coffee or snacks or whatever, you know, still like a somewhat healthy environment. Just when it mattered the most, it wasn't a healthy environment.
Okay. I guess when you know, like when the impending doom or something, right? When you know it's there and things aren't going well, you don't have that same necessity to keep things together, right? And that not only goes for you, but for everybody else. You're competing, you're still giving it your all, but when you know something's in the back of your mind, it's so difficult to get that little bit out of your head, right? So I think here what I want to do is kind of move forward a little bit to some of these rumors. Now, I think it's going to be pretty difficult for you to comment on some of this stuff, but there have been a lot of rumors flying around, and one of which is the potential for you to go to FaZe, who just got absolutely fucking curb stomped by Mouz Sports in Summit not that long ago. Now, I don't know how much you can say, but is there anything that you can give us on the future of you and any Counter-Strike teams coming up?
No, I can give credit to the reporters or the people that somehow find out this shit. But yeah, there was discussions, but like the report said, nothing's been signed.
Okay.
Nothing's set in stone.
Okay. Do you expect to be playing Counter-Strike soon?
I'd say before Katowice.
Okay. Well, that's at least a bit of a timeline for the people to work with at home. Now, I'm going to speculate here for a second, and we'll probably talk about this a little bit later. But guys, we'll pretend everybody else is out of the room here for a second, and we're just talking. But what I'm thinking is the issue here is apparently Carrigan's contract isn't up for a couple months. And apparently you need an exemption from Australia to leave the country. So if Mouz Sports can't get Dexter and FaZe can't get Carrigan yet, then let's not go anything too crazy. Let's let them do what they got to do. And it sounds like from Twistzz here in a couple of weeks' time, we'll have the rosters we're all talking about. Now, okay, we're back in the room. It's all good. All right. So you're just basically going to be playing FPL until you get announced on FaZe. Is that it?
Announced.
I'm trying to bait
What's
you.
going on here?
I'm-
That's a big bait, dude.
This is a nice try. I didn't
It
even
was
like. I didn't
a-
even
it was a
realize.
solid
I was just-
attempt,
that
you
went
know?
over my head, man.
if I was Twistzz, I would say, "Hey, just like yeah, of course."
Well, I gave it a
You
try.
snuck that phase.
That was a good attempt right there. I respect it.
Oh my god.
All
Wait.
right.
I have a question, just because, like what we were talking about, like the whole past year for you and Liquid and all of this, it was mostly about like interpersonal team relationships, stuff like that. With the change, right? Are you moving forward looking at your role in the team and in the server kind of things? Do you think you needed any change in that regard as well? Are you looking to do something new in the team or something like that?
Yeah, I would like to go back to like my 2018 self, where if I needed to pick up the op, if I felt like it was a necessary thing, then I'll do that. I had like a lot of freedom to do whatever to make myself feel comfortable and do whatever I need to do to make my team feel comfortable. And I was entering a lot. I was an aggressive player in 2018, and I definitely want to go back to that.
Okay.
Yeah. I was actually just rereading an interview from Katowice 2018. I think that was when I talked to you, and that was after you got Stewie in. And kind of with that change, people maybe don't remember it that much, but that was when you were kind of felt put like in a box in Liquid, where you didn't have that much freedom anymore. So it will be interesting to see you back and like freed up a bit.
Yeah.
Just on that, with what he's talking about with the freeing you up and stuff, do you think that is the case, that Stewie kind of forced you to change? Not obviously not him, but his presence in the team, it forced you to change your roles?
I think by nature of things, yeah. It's just like how it went, even if I had like good like numbers secondary opping and stuff, the team just want him to like secondary op and it was whatever. But yeah, I feel like over time, without even realizing it, I got put into like a very specific role per se.
Okay. Let's have a look here. What do we got left on this little list? We got experience in Europe so far. We've already been over that. You're playing a lot of FPL. You're having a good time. The FaZe stuff, we can't dig too much into that because we don't know what's coming next. We've covered off a lot of Liquid stuff, and I'm sure more will pop up as we go through. Do we have anything else, Striker? Is there anything glaring that because I know we can cover more off when we get to the playtime, but is there anything glaringly obvious that we're missing here?
Not particularly. I mean, you haven't really talked about sorry, you haven't really talked about like individual form, I suppose, but I guess you've covered part of it with some of the stuff that's happened over the year, but it's just and the roles, obviously. But yeah, do you just see that? Obviously, last 2 years you're a top 20 player, and this year kind of dropped off in general. So is that what you attribute that to?
I'd say yeah, but honestly, like even if I'm playing like the role that I was playing, and really trying to play for the team and make sure I have my nades down and whatever, then yeah. I mean, honestly, throughout the year, I didn't really look at the statistics that much. I was just trying to do the best I can. Have my flashes ready for my team, hold my spots. That's what I really focus on, and I think some like scenarios or situations or whatever ended up affecting my like confidence in the team, or felt like people like weren't believing in me that much, or there wasn't a mutual respect that was given. And yeah, I feel like it kind of led to me not playing anywhere near the level I know I can.
Okay. Well, I reckon we cover that one off there and we head over to the recent news. Now, we do have to play a bit of a bumper here, don't we, Lucas? All right, we're going to play this. We'll get stuck into some recent news, and we'll be back with more questions with Twistzz when we get to playtime. He's not going anywhere, but if you guys ask questions at home, we'll get to them when we're going to playtime, all right? So hang around. Lucas, throw the bumper. All right, we are back and we get stuck into the recent news right here. Now, Lucas, I want you to link something right now in TeamSpeak. Bring that up for all the viewers at home. Tell me when it's on screen, because we got some yay or nay buttons ready and raring here to go. And as soon as this one's on screen, I want you guys to hit your yay or your nay. Is it on screen? Off and Striker both already hit it.
I already hit it.
Basically,
I thought what you said on my screen as soon as it's on my screen. But
Wait,
on someone's screen.
what am I supposed to do?
This is where I need to do it. Guys, what we're doing is we're showing the NIP's new logo, right? Now, that's what we're showing all of you at home. So basically, Twistzz, if you like the logo, give it a thumbs up. If you don't like the logo, give it a thumbs down. I don't even know if you saw it, but it's
Is that real?
It's real. This happened like
Yeah.
what, an hour ago. So are you a fan of that, or do you think there we go? So we've all given it. We're all positive here today. Now, Prof, I saw you tweeting some stuff out. I saw you tweeting some shit. Do you want to take this one and tell everybody what's going on?
I mean, let's be real. The NIP old logo was awful. Literally,
Too
one of
brown.
the color, yeah, not great, but the design as well. It was just like bad. Like it was like a shuriken, but you couldn't even recognize it. It was just like million small lines. It just looked bad. It objectively looked bad. So they needed a redesign. I'm not like completely sold on this. Especially the color is weird, considering they changed it completely.
Yeah,
but it looks better. It just looks better. And that's a fact. So
gives them something to work with now.
all of these nayers in the chat,
I
they
think-
can
I
suck
think
it.
green and black is definitely easier color schemes to work with than brown in like any case, to be honest, for especially a team jersey or a merchandise.
Yeah,
So,
for
yeah.
sure.
Yep.
I get why people like every time we have one of these rebrands, people at home are like, oh, this fucking sucks, or this or that, right? There's always some form of a complaint, but it's just because it's different, guys. It's just because it
This-
looks different. You'll get
these
over it
days-
in a week.
Same guys that are like neighing so hard right now are going to be buying the jersey in like 2
Yeah.
weeks. So,
Like,
It's already pre-ordered.
what's the
Yeah.
point of being triggered by it? It's like it's done now. They're not going to go back. Most people aren't as fucking weak as EG's fucking org. They're not just going to go, oh, we'll put out the fucking circle thing again anyway. You know, like just you done it. You paid someone millions of dollars for the fucking rebrand. Just stick with it. It'll be fine. People will get over it. So all
Reminds
the
me
people
of
in
Chaos
chat.
a little bit, by the way. It's like the same
Yeah.
color scheme, kind of
Yeah.
like circular,
but
you
Chaos
know,
isn't
very
that big
similar.
anyway.
Okay,
so
let
who
me show you
cares?
this then. Let me show you this. Lucas, bring
Okay.
this up. Bring this up on screen. This is true as well. Bring this up for everybody at home. Chaos have changed their, their picture.
I didn't see that.
Dude,
That's
No,
a good meme. That's
That
a
is
good meme.
that's a good response. I like that a lot.
Oh dear.
Chaos
That's
did
actually
that,
really
and
funny.
they renamed to Chaos in 90s as well. That is top tier banter, man. I like that.
Respect to Chaos. All right, let's get back on track because I keep derailing everything here. So we're going to be kicking it off. We obviously had the HLTV top 20 players for 2020. That's a lot of 20s. Come to its conclusion. And some of you were really happy and some of you were really upset because guess what? It was the two players who we all knew were going to be in the top two. And back-to-back years, ZywOo has gotten the number one spot. Now, before we say anything, let's get those thumbs back out again. Now, I'm not going to ask here, like, I'm not saying, do you agree with it? Because I know that the guys at HLTV.org are definitely going to agree with it. But from your personal biases or your eye test or your feeling of the games that you watched or the matches you saw or what you thought, give it, we'll go yay for ZywOo and we'll go nay for Simple. Which player did you think was going to get number one this year? Like, and then, okay, Striker, of course, the guy fucking writing the article.
I didn't listen. I had just got a message. Can you repeat the
Or
question?
nay if you thought that Simple was going to get number one, or yay if you thought ZywOo was going to get number one.
I mean, I really didn't know. Like
But-
I was just like 50-50.
What was your gut feeling? Was it literally 50-50?
Yeah, I'd say my gut was for ZywOo, especially after the bait.
For ZywOo? All right, you should have
Yeah.
gone with yay then. But that's fine.
Ah,
It was
fuck
only
it. I
me who
don't
thought
know.
Simple,
It's
but that's because I'm just a fucking Simple fanboy.
The bait that the Vitality guys put out like 2 days before with like putting out like clown
The thinking
emojis
emoji and
and
yeah.
like
clown, whatever.
yeah, that was amazing. Everyone just ate that so hard. So
Sure.
that's nice.
All right, Russell, you've played against both of these absolute monsters, right? These absolute fucking animals. Which one, in your opinion, like obviously you just went with ZywOo, but which one, in your opinion, like it has been harder to play against?
the thing is, like, we usually always had success against NAVI.
Yeah.
True.
Without considering like our match against versus my Katowice, where it was a close like semifinal anyway. But prior years, I think NAVI was a lot easier of an opponent for us, and ZywOo was more of a challenge to play against, I guess, on an individual level.
Okay. Do you have any takes on those two as players? Like what separates them in your mind, or what's a standout? Is there anything, or they're both just fucking sick?
I think they're both really sick. The only thing I'd like to acknowledge is how versatile ZywOo seems to be. given that they basically have their 6-man roster that's working out pretty well. I'm not sure. Is it more? It's more
It's
S7,
just-
right?
But Vitality, just the 6. They got nitr0.
Okay. So yeah, like if you watch Inferno, like nitr0 is like the one like opping and stuff.
Yep.
That's a big change for like a primary opper to accept that I'm gonna be rifling B and anchoring it down. So I think there's a lot of versatile stuff that he does that goes unnoticed in the public eye. But in terms of him being number 1, I kind of just knew it was gonna happen. He had 4 more MVPs and his team won more trophies than Navi did. So it just seemed like an obvious one for me.
Is
that
that
was
it?
basically, yeah, exactly. That was basically my thinking. The second that I knew that he had like whatever 4 more MVPs or whatever, and generally like it was pretty obvious that he was going to get a lot of the losing MVPs because he was just by far the best player at those tournaments where they went to the final essentially. So some of them they won, a lot of them they didn't, obviously. But just based on that, I was relatively sure it was going to be ZywOo, but in the end, it was actually much closer than I kind of anticipated. I thought it was like almost for sure ZywOo, like 10 days or like halfway through the top 20. And when I asked Peter, he didn't know at the time yet. He didn't make the decision. It only came down at like whatever, a week before it actually happened. So yeah, obviously it was incredibly close. And I'm a little bit pissed at people who thought it was obviously one way or the other, right? That was like the most surprising thing to me because there was so little separating those 2 players statistically. Maybe not from the awards perspective, just because, yeah, as we said, ZywOo just had way more MVPs. But just like if you looked at the stats, they literally had like identical stats. They had Simple still had like the peak performance, at Katowice, like the biggest tournament of the year by far, and stuff like that. So there was a lot of stuff that went both ways. And I'm just surprised by how many people thought it was like obviously one way or the other.
Yeah, go man, get in.
I was actually going to ask if the LAN events at the beginning of the year held more weight than the online events in terms of the top 20 ranking.
I mean, to a degree, for sure, yeah, because of how big Katowice was, but that didn't really come down necessarily to just it being a LAN, but also just because it just had all the best teams at the time, like, and we didn't really get that throughout the year because we had like most of the year was split essentially, right? So Katowice was just far beyond anything else during the year, just based on the competition aspect, not even because of it being LAN necessarily, but still, I think it did have quite a bit more impact than anything else.
Okay, that's good. I feel like it's supposed to be that way.
Yeah. It must have been such a hard year as well to do I talked to some players and they're like, yeah, well, you feel like EU and NA should have been split up and this and that. Like, this is the thing. I think we spoke about it on the last episode, and it's the same thing with having Simple and ZywOo as the top 2 players, right? Or ZywOo and Simple, as I should say. When you look at that, right, you kind of, those 2 players with how good they are, I don't even know how anybody could go in with a clear-cut opinion on who was going to, come out on top of that. You guys have so many fucking numbers in the back end there. And I think the best thing is these 2, we're very lucky to have players of this caliber right now competing at the same time, right? It would look at all those things. And obviously it shows, I guess, how fanatical people are and, where their biases lie towards players that they think or what they think from eye test and stuff. But all in all, with this top 20 this year, Striker, is this probably been the hardest one to do because of the whole COVID situation and everyone being region locked?
I don't want to take credit for this just because it is like 99% Peter. Basically, sure. I had very little input, like just like some tiny things from around like which events were like the biggest of the year and stuff like that. That was essentially it. And so I can't really speak to that necessarily, but Peter has said that it was like definitely one of the hardest decisions that he's ever had to make around the top 20 with the number 1, number 2 this year.
Sure.
So I wouldn't be surprised if it was the hardest, to be honest. But just knowing that he only made the decision like 5 days before the articles came out.
Do you think this may have played into hurting him here, Prof, is the fact that those RMR events that they played in, they didn't do fantastically well. Obviously, it wasn't. I think I read an interview with Simple. It may have been with you guys where they were talking about how the RMR points might not even, like, because the major might not happen, so the events might be for nothing.
I think Blade said that they took one of those RMRs or like as like practice. Yeah, that's how they approached them. But I think when you look at those events, the CS ones, they weren't even that important for the ranking. They weren't even considered.
But it's kind of my point, because if NAVI had to play in the EU RMR event,
he had more opportunities to do better. Yeah.
Do you think that hurt him a lot?
That is 100% a factor. It's not gonna lie.
Okay. Well, I like at the same time, if they won that event, Striker, I'm asking you here. I know you both.
You
did
mean
articles.
like a European RMR if they were
No,
part
no,
of?
no.
Or
If
what
they
do you
were
mean?
in the CIS RMR and then Navi won and played really well in all of them, would that they still wouldn't have been
made a
factored
difference.
in? Okay, but if it was an EU one and they made it deeper, it
Yeah,
would have made it.
exactly.
Okay,
Like
so
those there are CIS RMR tournaments just essentially didn't have any other top 20 team apart from Navi at the time.
yeah,
Or like maybe like
Spirit.
one more top
Spirit,
20.
yeah.
Yeah, maybe like one more top 20 each or something like that. But most of them were like top 30-ish, you know. And those events we just straight up just don't really consider, even though that was like one of the best teams in the world there, just because of the rest of the competition.
Okay.
So it's like, yeah, it literally wouldn't have mattered, I think.
All right, so some factors there. Let's keep this one moving. We got plenty of recent news to talk about. We've got ESL's plans to return to LANs. They've released all their dates. As you guys remember on last time's show, I was going to show you the calendar, but I couldn't because you could see that some of the dates have changed. So our next show, I will have a calendar ready to go, I promise you. And there's also the RMR proposals are open. So let's start with the RMR proposals here, Prof. What was the article? What was the news that came out from Valve with that?
I was expecting you to throw this to Striker.
Oh shit,
honestly.
Striker! I'm throwing it to Striker.
I
mean,
did
it's
read
just-
it, but nothing. I didn't really remember anything special except what was announced before for the RMRs. Like you have to invite our top RMR teams based on points and stuff like that. So nothing special about. And there will be 2 RMRs, right? That's the plan.
Yeah,
before the major.
Yeah, pretty much. That's pretty much all of it. Like they're looking to do at least 2 with one of them on LAN.
All right. Before we get into the discussion about do we think that's a good idea, Russell, what did you think of the RMR events? As someone who had to compete in some of them, what did you make of that system that they brought out here to deal with the issue? Did you think it was a good system? Do you think it kind of got in the way of the events that already existed? Was it even something that you guys were prioritizing? How did that all play out from a team perspective?
I think eventually it ended up being something we prioritize. Mainly because replacing Nick obviously takes points away from us.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's something that shouldn't be punished, to be honest, especially in our situation where he wanted to step down. And yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think by convenience, we ended up being high up on the list without even realizing it, because most of the NA events were RMR events. But it wasn't something that we actively thought about.
Okay, so that's perfect because we can kind of use that because we just talked about the fact that NAVI didn't look at their RMR events as an important tour stop in the calendar. You said for you it was here nor there. It was like, yeah, we understand, but it's also doesn't feel like it's impending for us to be super focused on these. So, Prof, do we think that they've missed the mark here by Valve coming out and going, let's do more RMR events? Like, what do you think of this? Do you think they should have come up with a new method?
Yeah, they said additionally that they want to continue with the same like logic where tournament organizers repurpose the events that they have to become RMRs. But yeah, the problem with that is that you have to invite the teams that are the highest ranked. And let's maybe, if someone can find like the European status right now, like Godsent is top 5 there, maybe not after the player change, but you'll have to invite some teams that potentially wouldn't want for a top tier event. If you had like an elite S+ tier event, then you'll have some teams that you don't want, and maybe you will miss out on some other teams. And especially if it's like now where you have
there's
European
no complexity,
teams.
for example, in the top. Like that's one team. I guess maybe complexity is not the best example considering their recent form.
They're 18th.
But you know, like 5 months ago, complexity were still had no points, right?
Mouse Sports are like 13th at the moment, for example. Maybe that's a bit more of a like, whereas North are 11th. So I think that this next major is probably going to be a mess from a lot of perspectives, right? Because this is something we're talking about with Blast and ESL having announced their full calendars and mainly trying to do events all in one location, right? So it's all the teams come to Europe, right? I feel that's what both these TOs are going to try and do for the whole year. So having Blast or ESL repurpose their events doesn't feel likely, which leaves the door open for TOs like Star Ladders, Summit running one right now. I guess maybe DreamHacks. Like the thing is with those events, they're not going to be run by the big boys. Now, if I'm a TO and I'm like an ESL or a Blast, I'm changing my schedule or my calendar for an RMR event, even though they're going to pay for I think for the LAN one, they said they were going to pay for travel, accommodation, and prize money, right?
Yeah.
Even with that, I'm sitting thinking to myself, what what extra does that give us? It doesn't. To me, if I'm an ESL, a Blast, or even a Flashpoint, because they have partner teams as well, this just makes things harder and more difficult. Is there a solution that anybody has? Because I'm fucking out of them. Of what we could do that would make more sense for the major, because Valve want to keep it as open as possible so that Tom, Dick, and Harry down the park can make a fucking team and come in and qualify for the major. That's why. But is there any solution that we have where we could? Should we just have a whole different event for this? I'm losing my mind trying to think about a solution for this one. Anyone?
Not really. I feel like it's
We're all
just
fucked.
especially because we've already played 3 so far, and just like to have them just mean nothing and for now would just not really make sense to me. And I'm not even sure if that's going to be the case or not, because they've kind of hinted at it being changed in some way, at least, if not reset completely. So it's just hard to say at this point what's going to happen, but I doubt it's going to get reset. I feel like maybe they'll just make the recent ones way more, like, mean way more than like the last year's were. But there probably has to come some changes. But yeah, it's just hard to do anything now that we've already got the ball rolling. Like at this point, you would just punish a lot of teams that made a lot of progress in those RMR events that, you know, they would just lose entirely if you wanted to come up with a different system. So I feel like it has to be retained in some way.
To clarify, I feel like the only reason the RMR events didn't hold as much weight as they should is because the major was clearly not going to happen.
Yeah.
And that's exactly it, right? Like everyone knew that there's no way that there would be an audience held event, and Valve would never make the majors online. So the RMR events actually meant nothing, and that's why teams like NAVI or NA teams didn't really think about it, because you know, if there was going to be major, they're probably going to reset the points or something. You know, there's no way that they're going to keep these points from fucking March that are going to count into the major from next year.
I feel like they will still have like some value, but it's probably going to be minor.
Hopefully
super minor, especially because, like, as you said, the new events give more points, and also everyone made roster changes since, so they lost a big degree of those small points that they have. So it's going to mean something, and more so, I think it meant to like a team like Godsent, if you did well in the now FPX. If you did well in the first RMR, then you get invited into the second. Then again, you do like kind of okay. Then you get more points, and that's what mattered. But not actually doing well in one, like movie star riders or something. No one cares about their like 50 points or 500 points or whatever.
Let's do this, right? Because we also have to bridge the conversation to ESL's plans to return to LAN. And I've been on this show multiple times now saying, can we stop kicking the fucking can down the road? So using a thumbs up, no one listens. Let's just keep getting the hopes of the community up time and time again, and living by the mantra that things are going to be fine and that everything's going to be cool. Whereas the exact opposite keeps happening every single fucking week. Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox for a second. Out of the 4 of us here, we're going to yay it or nay it with those lovely buttons. Do you think the major will happen in October at this current juncture? As you see the world right now, with everything you know, do you think it'll happen in October? Is October for PGL? Hit your yay, hit your nay.
End of October and whatever.
Well, it would be completely against what I just said if I went, yes, it would happen, because I'm being a Debbie Downer here trying to bring the whole
just read out, because I don't have the stream.
Yeah, okay. So Twistzz was in real quick with a thumbs up. Then the 2 of you quickly followed, and then I went negative as all hell here just to bring everybody back to reality. So Twistzz, I don't want to ask your view on like geopolitics or the fucking COVID or vaccines or anything, but you're feeling confident that we'll get our act together, that we can at least have an event offline by that point?
I think with somewhat of an audience, I mean, there has to be a clear reason why Valve picked Sweden to host the TI and the major in the same location. There has to be some like deal being made with either, you know, I don't know anything, but I'm just going to say maybe the government, or they came to the conclusion that they can get visa for players for Sweden, you know, until October. So I think we'll definitely see an audience event. Maybe it's not thousands of people, but there's going to be a major this year, I'm pretty sure. And until then, I fully believe that there could be like studio events that are pretty well controlled, and we'll see like some LAN CS again.
Okay, no, and that's a pretty reasonable take. I think just the thing is, the reason I'm negative about it is because like I'm in the throes right now of getting ready to plan where I have to go and when I have to be there and shit, and I'm having to factor in like the potential for a 14-day quarantine in case I test positive on either side of traveling, right? So it's like, I'm sitting here just trying to work out how to get on a 3-hour fucking flight, and it seems difficult as it is. And at the moment, things just keep getting worse. So I'm just negative. You're probably bang on there in that sense, right? They wouldn't be planning 2 events in the same location. That's something that should probably stay factored in there. But what we can do with this, Lucas, I'm going to send you this link. We'll continue this because it's the same point of conversation. So I'm just going to read this out just quickly. This is from your website, HLTV.org. This was from you, Prof. Now, this is to do with ESL unveiling their 2021 calendar. Now, in this calendar, they updated some of the dates, but looking at the graphic, which is blurry as fuck, let me just zoom in. Looking at the graphic halfway down the page, right? It's got here esport events without audience, right? And it has Katowice, which is now no longer meant to be on LAN. It's meant to just be an online event like what we're currently experiencing with everything else. Then what they've planned for is from the 10th of March until the 11th of April, if I'm reading this correctly, is when Pro League is meant to be. But they have ESL Pro League with the green line halfway through. So I'm assuming what this means is the group stage would be played online. And then the plan is to get the playoffs of Pro League in a studio. That's probably towards the tail end of March and early April.
Yeah, something like that. Probably early April. A week for playoffs, I think, is more than enough. I don't know what the format is.
So we're limiting the teams. So wherever they think they can get them to, we're probably talking about 6 to 8 teams here for the playoffs. They think they can get 6 to 8 teams in one location in April. Now let's get those thumbs back out. Do we think that ESL can get 6 to 8 teams in one location in 3 months' time? Yay it or nay it? All right, Twistzz, you've gone with yay. The rest of us have gone nay. Why do you what's your feeling? Why do you think they can get teams in the one location?
Well, the thing is, I don't know how much the public knows or not. So it's like weird for me to say things. But
I was gonna say he knows something.
It is announced that it should be in Malta. Let's just say that.
It wasn't. It was announced.
Yeah, it's in the announcement. This one.
Oh, okay. So in that scenario, Malta's a pretty small area.
It is very small.
Yeah, where I'm pretty sure ESL has like connections, and there's been events there before, and I'm pretty sure the Maltese government loves the sound of esports and loves how it looks. So I think it's definitely possible to have 8 teams there in a controlled studio environment with no audience. And I believe that there could even be more teams. You know, maybe that line means that NA and EU separate. You know, we don't know what it means.
I'm gonna take this one little step further because basically, from my understanding, I live in Malta, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. There's an amber list to travel in. So if what they can do, what Russell's saying, if they can get a deal with the government to help get these players across, we can probably make it happen. But I think certain countries who are on this amber list, you have to just quarantine somewhere else first that's not on this list before you can travel into Malta for 14 days. So the reason I see that as difficult is ESL might have to get all these players in that location first, set them up, and then fly them to the next location. So I'm a little bit because I think that with how quickly we saw like the UK just fucking get shut out earlier this year, right? It was like, oh, everything's kind of okay. People are traveling. It's winter time. We're coughing. We're spluttering a bit more. There's a couple more cases. People saw each other for Christmas. People still were doing dumb cunt things on New Year's. Yeah, whatever. We got a couple more cases, blah, 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 blah. And then this second strain bullshit happens. And then people are just like, nah, fuck the UK. It's like lockdown, 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 lockdown. It's like anything could happen in a day. And all the governments are just like, nah, fuck that place. Or fuck that. Like, this is the scariest thing right now is that we're walking around on eggshells. And at any moment, if some crazy thing happens, let's say the virus breeds with a raccoon or some shit. Next thing we know, we've got some new raccoon strain of COVID that's fucking going into all of our dogs or something. Like at this point, we don't know what, like, I'm just sitting here wondering how much worse it can get. And we're planning to do lands in April. Like, I like it that we want to kind of give everybody something to be excited about. But I just sit here and I keep going, this is like the partner you all had, right? I'm referencing one of my experiences with me being a shit boyfriend, where like you say you're gonna like do this, or you say you're gonna buy him this, or you say I'm gonna take him to this place, and then the time comes around for it to happen, and you're like, hey honey, sorry, work wasn't as good for me this month, and I wasn't able to get enough money, so we can't go on holidays to Bali, but next month I'm gonna get you a new GHD hair straightener, right? Like this is what this feels like to GHD hair straightener. They're the fucking best, man. What do you mean you don't know what a GHD? I think it's GHD. Anyway, guys, buy your girlfriends a hair straightener. But it'll be with them for years. But my point here is, it's like I don't like that we're honey dicking people. It's like, if it's gonna happen, right? Like let's say we would like to run it on LAN, but currently we're doing our absolute best to make it happen on LAN. But currently, we'll just let you all know it's probably going to be online, instead of going, we're back on LAN, and then once we get close, it's like, hey guys, it's like the dog ate my homework excuse, but it's COVID. How many times can we run that? Like, we all know COVID's happening. How many times can we just say, oh yeah, but COVID? Like, can we start? Let's do this. Instead of everybody in this whole industry planning for when we get back to LAN and how things can be better when we're back on LAN, which we all want to be there. How about we go, what's the situation we're in right now? What is the most likely outcome? Let's take off of our fucking rose tinted glasses and stop looking at the world like things are just going to miraculously get better. Like a lot of us did, going, oh, we're going from 2020 to 2021. The world's going to go back to normal. And let's go, okay, well, let's make this better. Let's make this better. Let's get these, let's look at how we can make now better. Because if we make online broadcasts stronger and better, like what Blast are doing, and we can actually run a coherent broadcast in that kind of controlled environment and offer up new content and offer up the player cams and this and that and everything good that we're doing, and we can actually refine that shit before we're going, yeah, LAN, then we're actually going to have a better product when we get back to LAN. So let's make what we have now better, and let's worry about the shit in the future. Get a team, get 6 dudes, put them in a room, they can plan for the future. Let everybody else just worry about now. Let's make now better. Can we make now better?
I agree with that. But obviously, like, there must have been plans to have Katowice also played in like a controlled environment too.
Yeah.
But it just didn't happen. So it does mean that ESL is aiming for like a more realistic time frame, and they must have communicated with the partner teams to ensure that everyone feels safe with the plan.
I'm gonna have to be meaner on them next time, because I've kind of let him off the hook, Russell. I've let him off the hook a couple of times here. Next time, I'm gonna have to.
By the way, honey dicking, that's a bingo check right there.
Is it?
We didn't release the bingo list though.
We should,
but yeah,
because it's pretty good.
All right.
So that was a term that was
that's like
used a lot
in my team. Saying from Sponge.
Yeah, it's a common
he always
term.
like every other show he says something that I haven't heard before, but I understand, like the concept of, but I just haven't heard before. And honey dicking is one of those things.
Jason used that term a lot.
Yeah.
Not a lot.
We know where you
but,
get it from.
He was, maybe he heard it from that one.
We still have a chat. We still check in with Jason every now and again. Okay. Have I missed anything here, Prof, on this ESL plan stuff?
We did too low. This is too much already.
You're right.
Like,
You're right.
yeah, I think the plan is maybe Cologne LAN. That's the only thing that it said. But not even maybe. Like, they will consider if it's a possibility. I think that's honey dicking.
Yeah.
If I understood that term correctly. So
yeah, I think you got it. I think you've nailed it there. Let's move on to the next one here. We've got Mouz Sports with the addition of acoR and Dexter. Now, we've all seen the addition of acoR. Fantastic debut. 2-0 over FaZe. Dexter is the one, and we already touched on this a little bit earlier. So let's run with this for a second. How much stock are we putting in all of this news, Striker? Is it basically a done deal as far as you're concerned?
You're talking about Dexter, right?
Yeah, the acoR one is obviously done.
Right.
It's the Dexter one that I think we're all a little bit more, because he's going to obviously be the in-game leader of the team and making a move from Australia. Like,
right.
Are we getting a portion of this kid's salary? Like, is the show getting a cut?
Because of the fact that we actually make people aware that he's not a dad.
Yeah, well, that helps. It's crazy that now people know he can travel. It's all good.
Yeah, exactly. Like, so many people thought he was actually a dad.
I thought he was a dad.
Wait, he's not?
No, he's not. And we just tried to.
Full of lies, dude. Holy shit!
No, it was just a stupid bio that he had. For no apparent reason either.
Now we'll find out he could have joined Liquid as well last year.
He could have been in Europe last year, man, easily. If that wasn't the case, I feel like he would have been in Europe already.
What do we think of this team though, Twistzz? When you look at this roster, right? Let's assume this is happening. So we got Dexter coming over. He's going to in-game lead now, his first European team. Otherwise, it's always been Australian teams for him. They're going to have acoR has just joined. Obviously, Rops, BMAS, and then Frozen, right? That team, from your standpoint, I want to ask something a bit more pointed. As do you think they have potential? Because obviously they do. Do you think this can be like a mainstay within the top 10?
Yeah, I would say even like top 7.
Okay.
I think they have got great players, and I've happened to have a few chats with Dexter with some shuttle rides and events or whatever, and he seems like a very well-headed guy. and he has like a really nice view for the game, and he's also like a really team-oriented person. So I think I'm really excited to see what he does with Mousesports.
Okay. Now, Prof, are we thinking if this does happen, it's going to have massive teething issues for him as the leader to take over and step into? Is there going to be like a level of expectation that's too high because assumably he's taking Carrigan's position?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be difficult because it's a different type of an in-game leader. Just like as a player, I feel like so that's going to be a thing, and also just playing European competition nonstop. I think when they managed to play European competition recently, like beginning of 2020, when they played in
they made the finals,
Leipzig,
right?
They made the finals there.
Yeah.
They beat that was Mad Lions or Tricked, then like the Hunden acoR team and those guys. And they beat they beat Cloud9 and some other European team as well. So they know how to play against these teams, like on a lower level European teams. I mean, he does as well. So I think there is potential there, but playing top teams like Astralis, NAVI every other day, that's going to be a different ball game for sure. So I think there is going to be some time needed to adapt for him.
Okay.
Especially after he was gone for like a year, man. Like that's gonna be a pretty big wake up call, I feel like, for him. I mean, props to him if he actually figures it out and he's actually good the second he comes back. Who knows? Maybe that's the case. You know, he could be like a breath of fresh air for Mousesports, especially considering that he's not even the only change in the team, right? And I feel like that makes a pretty big difference.
Yeah.
Just because it's suddenly it's going to be like a different look of an entire team, right? They have a clear AacoR now. While they were like switching around between Chris J and Carrigan and whoever else before and Robs, and they have a different in-game leader. So the system is obviously going to change based on that as well. So I feel like that it's going to help Dexter with that adjustment for sure. I don't know if it's going to be good, if it's going to be easy, really. I don't think so, but it's going to help.
It's going to be quite a young team because Dexter coming in is 26. The rest of them, Robs is 21. What's Frozen? 19, 20? Maybe something like that. You've got BMAS is like he's like 17, and then what's his name?
acoR is a bit older as well.
23, right? So still a pretty young team here, and obviously the Mytha connection with Dexter and Mytha being the coach of Mousesports. I think that might help because he already knows what he's going to bring across to the team. So we got some positives to look at there. I guess there's not too much more to dig into with this because it's quite clearly defined who the players are, what the roles are, and we kind of just have to wait and see when or if this gets announced. It looks like Summit, Mouz are playing with their roster with Carrigan and acoR, and FaZe are playing with Olaf and Kirby and co still until the changes happen. So I guess we'll have to wait and monitor those. But one that we I guess we'll have to monitor as well is this new ENCE team. Now, I'm not going to lie to everybody. I didn't pay a lot of attention when this came out. I saw that they kept Alu. They kept
obviously.
Yep, they kept Doto. They kept. Who else did they keep? They
didn't keep anyone else really apart from Saw as a coach.
Yeah, Saw as the coach, and then they added in Spinks, Snappy, and who?
Yeah.
Oh shit. Okay.
That's the best signing they got, definitely.
Yeah.
He's
become
been pretty
a
good
menagerie of a team.
What?
I mean, it's become a bit of a. It's all over the place. They've added in all these different nationalities.
Hear the word, so.
Menagerie.
Okay.
Sorry.
I'm a sponge. I read books. I will be cool and influence all of these listeners that are 80% not native English speakers.
Sorry, guys. Yeah.
Maybe they learned something. It's always good.
Maybe how not to use the English language. So looking at this one, what's your initial take of this one, Twistzz? Because I look at this and I go, it looks like a fucking mess.
I actually think. Fuck, I didn't even hear who you just said was on the roster, to be honest.
Alu, Snappy, Diha, Spinks.
I've played with Spinks and Dodo in FPL games before.
Yeah.
And they seem like really good like teammates, and they play pretty well. I've seen like Dodo like streaming. He was like watching demos on the stream and stuff. So clearly he's like educating himself. And I think the idea of them going international was a good one for them. And yeah, I think I hope it works out for them.
It's crazy to think where this team was, like when you look back at with Alexi B and everything, and just how wrong every decision since then has gone to the point that they've had to do this with the roster. It's like they've moved away from Finnish Counter-Strike a bit here, Striker, do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty fucking obvious considering they got 3 non-Finns
Yeah.
into the roster, right?
I mean, it probably tells an obvious storyline, right?
Scorched earth in the Finnish scene, huh?
Well, considering there's only one Finnish player left, it can only lead to one thing.
Yeah, it's crazy that it's crazy that after all the stuff that came out, right, from all of the teammates around Alu, that they still kept Alu. Like, I'm not it sounds.
I mean, they kind of defended him at the day that they made like a whole fucking statement around it. Like, you should see it. It was like 7 pages. Like, this is public, by the way. This is not something that I just got on the side. They actually released like a 7-page document with maybe like 4 pictures or something that kind of filled the space. But like every single part of the decision was like explained by the management and stuff like that. It was pretty kind of cool because we don't really see this very often in like announcements. It was so hard to sift through it like with half an hour advance on the actual news to try to like portray it in the actual post. It was kind of interesting. Like they like acknowledged the fact that Alu made some mistakes and like he wasn't a great teammate like to some of those teammates, but that like he was by far not the only person responsible for like a lot of the changes that happened at the team. Like a lot of the kind of like very reasonable stuff that I would even believe. I don't think the Alu thing is as black and white as maybe like the teammates want to portray it. I'm sure there were mistakes on both parts being made, didn't really work out from both sides. So I don't really mind them keeping Alu, especially because it was pretty obvious that like Sergey just wanted to leave the team entirely, and then Sunny basically followed him in the same sense. So like you can't really keep anybody else apart from Yumpy. That's the only part that I don't like about this is that they kind of I'm assuming that they hoped that Yumpy was going to figure out his backband issues, and that didn't happen. And so they just went back on that deal, saying, okay, well, if you can't figure it out, well, then see ya.
Yeah.
That was very optimistic, though.
Yeah.
For sure.
Maybe
they just thought like the lawsuit was going to work out, right? Maybe like that was the thinking there. Obviously, so far we haven't really heard anything to say that it is going to work out. So I guess that's the main reason.
Yeah, I think that failed after they sued the wrong Valve department.
That was the first report about it. Yeah, I don't know I haven't really followed too much about it, but it just didn't work out apparently.
Now, this article, I'm getting the mic close here, boys, so everyone at home, make sure they hear this. Valve was valued at $10 billion as of March 14, 2019. If anyone thought that Yampy was going to go into a legal battle with Valve and be even remotely successful, what the fuck were you smoking? Like,
imagine the level of like attorneys they have just like hired nonstop. Probably better than some Finnish attorney you can afford with your CS:GO player salary.
I couldn't believe, like, I was reading this stuff, and when I heard like things were going well, I was like, are they really? Are they actually going well? Or is this another honey dicking situation going on here? And it was. But now the rumors is what Yampy maybe goes to Valorant. This is the thing, right? If you're VAC banned, you may I don't want you to leave, but if you want to play at the highest level, maybe you have to leave. Like. Maybe you just have to go. Maybe there's no other way around it.
It's just always going to lead to the same thing, right? If you don't really solve it, then it's just always going to lead to you, maybe getting a chance on one of the teams, but then they realize, okay, but when we get good, we actually want to play at the majors. Sorry, guy, you have to go. And this is gonna happen perpetually. We saw it with Steel. We saw it with like all of these guys who basically can't play at majors, right? So, and it's going to keep happening. So I feel like that's kind of like the only out, unless you want to be like the Steel, bringing up people all the time and not really getting to play at all the biggest events, getting cut the second that they realize they actually can do something at the majors and stuff. So it's just, it's inescapable.
So I really wish they took a different approach, because knowing that there's like these agencies out there, like Prodigy Agency and the ESIC Association, I feel like Yampy and ENCE could have took a better route where they collaborate with one of those agencies to get in touch with Valve to work on something instead of publicly suing the company. So
I feel like that's probably what they tried at first, though. I imagine they just didn't get them anywhere.
I don't know.
Hard to say. I don't know.
For some reason, I just don't believe it, because there has to be a way to get in contact with Valve. I mean, ESIC's a big association. I mean, they're controlling a lot of things right now in terms of punishments, and the fact that it went right to a lawsuit is it blows my mind. I feel like
I
they
mean,
could have figured it out.
Yeah.
To be fair, ESIC is also, at least Ian Smith, like the leader of ESIC, is the commissioner, is even against like the idea of permanent banning people, right? So
Yeah.
I'm not sure that there was a way for there to be an impact through like one of these
There
parties.
is like one example of a guy being unbanned on a high
Robin.
level. Robin, right? Now playing from an endpoint, and he was banned for like 2 or 3 years.
I think
and
more
only
even.
got
I
on-
think it was like 5.
He got
5
banned back
years?
early days.
It was like
2014
2013, 2012, 2013 or something that he got banned, and then
It was after 2013 because he played against me in the DreamHack Open major qualifier, the first one.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, he was banned for a long time, and he got through after someone else who got banned for the same thing, which is essentially like something
H1Z1
for a
or
different game
Yeah.
that was unrelated to CS:GO that he had installed that got him back banned. And someone else found out like a way to prove that to Valve, so he sent the same thing essentially and got unbanned. So they are not like completely just a wall. They do respond, but you have to give them information that they really need. Otherwise, they might just ignore you because they're getting 1,000 mails per day. Probably my dog cheated and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
have to be reasonable.
Let's do this. Do we think, get your thumbs back out, boys, your yays or your nays. Do we think this version of ENCE will be better than the last version of ENCE before they all decided they hated each other and turned it into an episode of the Real Housewives of Finland?
Before they replaced LexTV?
No,
No.
after
The
the one that
2020
had
version.
the one that had Yampy, Ariel, fucking
Oh, okay.
the guys recently.
Sunny,
Better or
yeah.
worse? We've unanimously gone with better. I think
it's
at
hard
least
to get worse. That's the problem.
Exactly.
That's exactly it. You know, like set the bar very low that they should be able to go right over it.
I'm out of all of these people, I feel for fucking Snappy. There's just an in-game leader right now who's getting thrown around like a band-aid. It's like, fuck, we need a fucking in-game leader. Is Snappy available? It's just getting fucking thrown. It's a problem, you know? Like the poor guy's just getting like lobbed here, there, and everywhere. So let's hope it works out better. But let's keep this going. We got a bunch more news to talk about, and then we're getting into the
To
finals.
be fair, just because we didn't really touch too much on the actual additions, I feel like Diha and Spinks are actually decent additions. Like Spinks, obviously the long term factor of that, because I think he's clearly going to improve. He's like one of the people who I think we can pretty much bank on being like relevant, you know, next year.
Yeah.
And Diha has actually been doing pretty well. Basically, just got kicked from Sprout because they wanted to get back to a major roster for the fucking 3rd time in their history or whatever it was. So
yeah,
I feel like it's actually like decent additions. I'm not saying that they're going to be like a mega baller team or whatever, but I feel like they're actually gonna keep improving.
Yeah. All right. Well, another team that should probably be improving with these 2 new additions was Team Spirit. So they did a rebrand as well. I actually like their logo being simplified, but that's not the question. The question at hand here is the addition of Degster, who's been getting a lot of spotlight recently. He did sub in for Sprout, the team we were just mentioning recently in Meisterschaft versus, was it against Big?
Yeah,
Pretty sure it was against Big. And he absolutely fucking dumpstered them. And also Patsi has joined the team. Now, both of these guys are from Esparta, I do believe. And having Degster joining in the spot for I Disbalance it is, you now have Mia, Magix, and this Degster guy. And if he can live up to any of the hype that's around his name, that team starts to sound pretty fucking sick. Have you come across this guy, Russell, in your FPL battles?
I did actually.
Okay. What'd you think?
Sorry, I almost clicked on something. I thought he was pretty good. I had no idea who he was initially. Like if he was some like star in FPL or whatever. Because I just like jumped right into it. I didn't look at who I was playing with. But he seemed like a really good like primary opper, and he was like positioning himself well. And I did watch the Sprout match. I watched like all of it, and yeah, he had tremendous impact in that game. I can almost say that he single-handedly won it for Sprout actually.
Okay, so at least that's some high praise right there. Now, when we're looking at this team and its potential, Prof, with the additions, now what's the go with Patsi? Is he? What did they say about him? Is he
they said like a 6-man roster, and I don't know. There's too many six-man rosters. Did they say they want to keep him on to get some experience and play like 6? Was that some other team? Jesus Christ, there's so many.
Well, this kid's only 17, right? So it would make sense if they were trying to like have him as a man that they can rotate in and out. Because they have Chopper in game leading, and then they have Sumdai Young as the current 5, and then obviously this kid getting added in. You know, maybe they want to use him on different. I don't know. It seems interesting for a team like Spirit to go for a 6-man.
With like Mir and Dexter, it just seems like a budget Navi almost. It's like budget electronic and simple. Both kind of similar in the way they play. From what I know about Dexter and Mir, definitely. That's a pretty sick 1-2 punch to have for like the second, third best CIS team, right? So. And Chopper there as an in-game leader. I just think it's a massive upgrade. Like the biggest issue with Spirit was iDisbalance being kind of on and off, like very inconsistent as a player. So if they can patch that up, just have like a very consistent topper, I feel like that's a massive upgrade.
Okay. Do you think this team has potential now, Striker, to take it to that next level? Because they were on that cusp, right? They were definitely competitive. How far do you see them going now? Do you think this is the change they needed?
I was just waiting on either FaZe or Spirit to make one of these moves where they get like a Shiro or they get like a Dexter, you know, like this next level Opera. I guess maybe FaZe isn't the best example just because XCPower had a lot of hype behind him for a long time. Maybe he has kind of lost that in recent times, at least I feel like that. But obviously in Spirit, that was a pretty big, as Prof was saying, that was a pretty clear issue. So I was just waiting on one of these teams to just finally like put together this like star-filled roster, because there's a lot of talent in the Rush, like in the sub-Navi Russian scene essentially, but they're all on different teams basically. Like they're so spread out. So I was just waiting for one of these moves to happen, and I feel like this could definitely be one of them.
Okay.
I would like to say a name that we haven't mentioned actually.
All right.
Waro 2K.
Oh.
From my experience with him in FPL, this guy, like, he goes from seeming really unaware to knowing everything. So I think he has a good sense for the game.
Okay.
And
that sounds
he's
suspicious.
okay, I didn't mean to sound suspicious, but he was playing really good. And we actually, when I was with Liquid, we played him. He was still like trialing for fours.
Okay.
And we played him in a scrim, and he played really well. So I think he's like the next CIS star, to be honest. Along with Dexter, these operas are gonna destroy in the scene.
So
he is now playing with fours. That is the thing. Like he played official games with them. Voro 2K and
he played at the end of last year, but I don't think he is anymore.
So I don't know what is going on there exactly.
Oh no, he did. Okay.
They played the DreamHack Open qualifier and qualified through it with him. He top fragged against the Polish team and was like okay against the Hellraisers in the final as well. So there's something going on there. I'm not sure what the deal is exactly. XCPower wasn't in the lineup, so it's not completely certain what's going on. But it could be the next thing, right? Because as Striker said, XCPower kind of fell off in hype and in results, of course. So maybe that's the solution.
All right. Well,
he's a guy who's simple to put in his bold prediction.
That's
kind of
true.
a surprise to me because I actually had never heard about him before.
Let's just say that Spirit are going to be looking like, I don't know, right now, because VP are back up on the rise. Obviously now be playing some good CS. Spirit have to come in at that third string, right?
Gambit as well.
Would you put Spirit above Gambit, Prof?
Probably not at the moment.
Yeah.
But they're so close, all of them there. Like
I think
VP maybe a
pack.
bit. Yeah, VP a bit in front of them, but these two I'd say are kind of close.
Okay. Well, we're already an hour and 20 minutes into the show, so we'll keep this one trucking along because we got some questions for Twistzz and we want to go over the blast results, and we also have to get stuck into this fucking ESIC stuff. So
to be fair, there's not that much about the ESIC stuff.
We got to do a couple things. First thing, Caddy B always admits when he's wrong. And the other day, when the ESIC stuff came down, and right now we're talking about the Australian shit. We'll talk about the Vitality shit in a second. When I wake up and I get a little bit of a notification from some of the people a day before that there is about to be a mass fucking banning of my countrymen. Now, I want to say this: I haven't been home in many a year. I consider myself very disconnected from the scene, but I still have a lot of pride in Australian Counter-Strike players. When I see that this thing comes out, and the first thing I read is these players are banned, and I should have read it more clearly. Obviously, this is why I'm apologizing. My first instinct is, oh my fucking God, they are bringing shame on the name of Australian CS. Us plucky fucking cunts with accents who have shrimp on the barbie and like drinking beer, who've had to work really hard to get into World Counter-Strike, squandering our name because we want to have a couple of bets on our own matches. That is my initial thought on that whole situation. At a finer look, or a second glance, let's put it like that, it appears that not as all as it seems. And this is a discussion I know that we were having within our little Discord chat, boys, and it's these bans that have come on through for these 35 players from ESIC, ranging from 12 months to 40 months, was it 48 months, something like that. They're not it's not as clear as the way the community took it. I think a lot of people read that, like I did, and assumed that these guys were fixing their own matches. Do we want to try and clarify that a little bit better, Striker? Maybe you're better with words than I here to clarify all of those, not obviously not all the bans, because some of them maybe they were match fixing.
Yeah, the thing is, like, we don't actually know individual reasonings for those bans. We can just like deduct things from the length of them, because basically, like, all the 20, what was it, 12 months or 24 months? 12 months,
12
right?
months was
the
if they were
lowest.
betting in general, right?
Yeah, exactly. Those we assume were just for betting on any match in competitions that they, or is it just any match at a pro level, even not just the competitions that they actually took part in, even if it was like outside of their own matches, which is obviously something that Valve have commented about on and just suggested that nobody takes part in. If you have, like, you know, background knowledge of as like a pro player or as somebody who's in the scene, like in my position, for example, I shouldn't bet on matches either, because I have a lot of background information that the public doesn't really have access to, right? So I shouldn't be betting on matches because I just have an unfair advantage compared to those people, right? So as somebody who competes in these tournaments like on a regular basis, you're already basically considered a pro in this view, just because you just have a lot more information than everybody else who's just usually betting on these matches. And that's why you shouldn't really take part in that. And this is something that's obviously maybe not been made clear enough by, like, whether it be organizers or ESIC or Valve, just because they basically like posted about it once and then kind of never really got back to it, or just never really plastered it anywhere else. So I guess that's where the problem comes from, essentially, that people didn't even realize they were doing something wrong in these cases where they were just betting on any match, you know, any random match that happened at the top tier or whatever.
Yeah, like one thing, as Striker mentions, there is a blog about it, and that blog is from 2015, probably something around that time. And I linked it on my Twitter like 10 times, but every time people are like, first time seeing this, never saw this before. So it's not like everyone knows about it, even though you can say, oh, this is common knowledge. Like, it's not common. Like, people don't know how to boil an egg. So let's not pretend like common knowledge is you shouldn't bet on other matches because you're kind of a pro or something, whatever. I think one of the big discussions that started after this, and why, Sponge, you deleted your tweet as well, is we realized that not all of these guys are, I wouldn't consider them a pro, definitely. Yeah, these are guys that literally started playing ESEA Premier in Australia for like Rooster 2, literally not a massive organization. And they are betting on fucking Astralis FaZe grand final of a tournament, right? And I doubt that guy has a lot of inside information. Yeah. Now, of course, it would be ideal for him to not bet, but that's kind of stretching, not even being like punished at all, and being punished for a month ban, like a year-long ban. That could be maybe too much.
Yeah.
I also had people like messaging me saying that they bet before they joined the ESEA Premier on like maybe ESEA Premier, or maybe not even, like some random matches, like big team matches, and then they got banned. Maybe that's also not a thing that maybe that's an error. Who knows? But there are some of these situations where it's not clear cut what's going on there. So yeah.
Is that actually what happened? Was that the players were betting on higher tier matches?
So it's
some
really
of them
unclear.
Surely
right
are. Like, we don't know how many, but
that's pretty messed up that they actually got banned for so long.
It's wild, because if that is the case, and they were banned for, like, could you imagine, right? You play football on the weekend for a club, and then you got banned from playing football for your local club down the park with some of your, your mates or, your colleagues, and you were betting on a Premier League match. Like, that's kind of how I'm equating it.
Sure.
Like, these are kids, right? Like, who are playing in, look, Australian Premier ESEA guys. You face at level 10s in Europe would fucking wipe the floor with these kids. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, I'm being serious. This is the level of Counter-Strike we're talking about. And they've been considered under like the banner of pro. Like,
I guess that's the problem there, right? But what you were just talking about, because like, where do you draw the line in that case then?
Could be a
Like, that's-
compliment.
What? Oh, compliment. Sure. Yeah, I mean, if you get bad for a year, maybe it's not so much of a compliment. But I guess that's the problem. Like, from ESIC's standpoint, right? Where do we draw the line? Because you can't really draw the line at salaries, because it's just impossible to determine like who's actually salaried, who's not. You can't keep track of that as somebody who's kind of like on the outskirts, right, of the scene, and not really, have as much information available. So it's just like, I get it from both sides. I think the biggest problem is just the awareness part of it. That like a lot of these people, I'm sure, were not aware of that they were doing something that they shouldn't be.
Russell, how well known was it for you boys not to bet? Like, is that like really drilled into you?
Yeah, it's pretty drilled in. It's like, we've made jokes sometimes. If we were like, damn, if we were to bet, like,
Sure.
we would 100% it, we would ace these bets. But like, it's pretty known for us not to bet, and that we could get in big trouble for it. And yeah, I think it's really unfair to ban some of these players for a year. If they're young players, what does that do? It makes them go to Valorant.
Yeah.
And so we lose more players to the other scene. And this is how we destroy our own system that we're building here. So I think there should be some reconsiderations there on ESIC's part. And yeah.
Definitely at least like a part like warning to these people, just because, yeah, as I said, like awareness was, I'm sure, like a really big factor in this. So if they got a warning that, okay, you can't bet, you have to be careful about this or whatever, then I feel like it would have been enough for a lot of these cases. Obviously, I don't know how many of these cases were actually where they just bet on like a match that wasn't even in the competition that they played in. If it's in the competition that they play in, I can definitely understand that, right? Because there is 100%, like a lot of these players around
screaming against them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
And just some information that will help you make decisions with betting, right? So like within the same competition, I get it. But if you're like fucking a world away, and not really even have any sort of connections to these people, like then obviously that becomes a gray area for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, honestly, like I could have even made the same mistake, say if I was like a premier player, like, yeah, I see Astralis like playing really well, and for some reason they have low odds versus this team, I'm just gonna like bet on them.
Yeah.
And I think it's actually a very common mistake. And I mean, we see 35 players banned, so it really goes to show how like people weren't informed at all.
It also, you have to take into account like different, like just in different countries, betting is not that big of a thing. Like in Australia, it is, and in the US, betting on sports not that big of a thing, just because of all of the regulations and stuff like that. So for some people, it's going to be more accessible, more like normal than for others. And it's always, when stuff like this happens, it's always funny to read the comments. It's like, oh, this is obviously how it has to be, because in my country, this is how it is. But in some other country, it's not like that. So with this like global situation, it's always weird when we get into these things.
Yeah.
Devil Walk had a good comment. He said, ESIC is obviously made by Riot to influx more players into their scenes.
Holy shit, dude. The biggest conspiracy theory of them all.
Now, let's get into the next bit about ESIC, right? Because this is some more interesting stuff that happened over Blast.
Always a blast.
Always a blast. So if you weren't watching, you would have noticed that Vitality were at their facility, which is where they tend to play most of the events that they prioritize from. It's a glass little room that they have their PCs in. And in that room, there's normally the 6 of the players. There's the coach. There's Matt, the assistant coach. There's normally some fucking entourage of, whoever the fuck else is in there, whether it's the owner getting mad at Apex for giving the finger to the camera. There's always a million people in that fucking room with Vitality. But that's not my point. The point here is on the other side of that glass, it appears to me like it's a bit of like a lobby, like a chill out, watch a television area where, you know, there's probably some couches or some beanbags. There's also a television. And on that television, lo and behold, was the stream of the game that they were playing in. Now, if you remember late last year, ESIC, they came out and they said, listen, motherfuckers, all y'all been cheating with some stream sniping and we ain't going to have any more of that. If you see you doing it again, we're going to come down on y'all with the book. Now, Vitality...
ESIC just became Texan all of a sudden.
Yeah, I don't know. Who knows? I don't know what's going on up here, mate. I've lost my mind. But anyway, they came out and said that they're gonna drop that ban hammer, basically, right? If anybody's caught doing this in the future, this is your warning. You're all being known because you've all been doing dirty shit. Don't do it anymore. And then Vitality, with that circumstance that I just had the game up. Do I think that there was any intent for them to cheat? No, but is that the point? I don't know. So this is where we're going to have this conversation, because Vitality were fined $10,000 by ESIC, which we all know in gamer money for that team is nothing. We also know that the org came out and accepted responsibility. There was staff who left the TV on. It had nothing to do with the players. We might need to break this down into multiple different camps. So first of all, Russell, let's start with your opinion on stream sniping in the online era. Do you think, right, it is as big of a deal as what it has been made out to be? And not just necessarily the Vitality situation, but the situation in, do you think that people can benefit an extreme amount in these games if they were doing this and intentionally cheating?
I'd say that there's very, very few like situations where you can actually benefit from stream sniping. Say if you take like a technical pause, you know, and like your teammate like DC'd at the beginning of the round, they have the match medic, and for some reason admin doesn't know how to do this, and suddenly you have the stream up, it's like a 4-minute pause, so you can see their economy. That's like the only situation where it would actually benefit a team. Whereas before, in like the earlier of the year, the stream delay was only like something absurd, like 3 minutes or something, like two.
I think it was even less. Yeah,
it was like two minutes.
A minute and a half, I think, even. Yeah, something like that.
And that's like an actual situation where teams could benefit and exploit like the defense or like the aggression of teams. Now that's a problem, and I feel like they should be looking into the people that stream snipe back then, because there had to be teams that were doing it in the online era. In terms of now, with these like 5-6 minute delays, there's no way. There's nothing you can benefit from. You're like 2-3 rounds in the past. The economy isn't even the same. People are changing positions. There's no information to gain.
Okay. So that right there is probably the opinion that I think the majority of people on this side think, but we need to present the other side, because it was quite the mob of angry people on the internet, and even people digging deeper and looking into more footage and going, well, Vitality have this many people in the room. Why is this motherfucker on his phone? Why is this guy doing this? It just became, how many things can we nitpick and blame these people for and almost try and tear them down and make them hate themselves and their lives, right? That's what this becomes from at least my standpoint. So, Prof, when you look at this situation that unfolded and how it all transpired, do you think that this is something that we're going to be able to avoid, or are we just out here looking for as many dramas as we possibly can?
Of course, we're looking for dramas, like,
okay,
definitely. But it kind of, it's understandable, I feel like, because
especially after what ESIC said, right?
Because what ESIC said and what was not said was, they didn't say like who. Like, let's just roll back to their last announcement about the stream sniping, was like widespread occurrence of stream sniping, and we will not process it because it's so widespread, and we don't know like what happened, how much, blah blah. So people are kind of mad about that, and they want people. They kind of said, okay, we'll live with this, but then the next time if someone does it, he's gonna get so fucked, right? And that's kind of the mob mentality, the fan mentality right now. And now someone did it, so they're angry, and they want everyone that wasn't punished before to be punished through Vitality, for Vitality to be our Jesus Christ, Lord and Savior, and to die for all of the sins from everyone before, right? That's how it feels to me. Even though when you look at it, it's not that big of a deal, as you explained. Obviously, it's not that big of a deal when you have 5-minute delay, and it pretty much seemed like not on purpose thing, and they had audio and other video footage as well to prove that no information was passed on, right? Because from what I understood, that was what ESIC researched about the Vitality situation, and that's why they got such a small fine. It was a small fine because, okay, you did a stupid thing. Please turn off the TV next time. Don't do this. This looks dumb. But you didn't actually use it, so it wasn't on purpose. We're not going to ban you for years. And that kind of makes sense, right?
It's just okay, go ahead.
Sorry. I was just going to say that I'm luckily that maybe they didn't look in the past, because I feel like there's a lot of scenarios in online CS where, say, if you're watching the match like prior to yours, and then you suddenly go into the game to like warm up, and you leave your Google Chrome tab open, you have the stream in the background, and you happen to be logged in. That's like a super unlucky scenario that could happen to like a player. But yeah, I just wanted to point that out.
This is what happened on that day in my mind, right? Because they were the last series of the day. I think I already spoke about this. It feels like I'm getting massive deja vu. This is how this day.
Not on this podcast.
So I can repeat myself. This is how the day went for me, right? They knew they were last game of the day. They came into practice whenever the fuck that they had practice set for. They're doing all their prac. They're doing all their prep. They're warming up. They have a break. They have some food. Okay, first series, for some unknown reason, Complexity win a 12-3 first. I think this was the same day. Have a 12-3 first half, T-side Mirage, and then still manages to go overtime. Classic Counter-Strike these days, right? Then the second map, it's really long too. And then the third map, series finally ends. It's like, fuck, that was the first series. Jesus Christ, we're behind schedule. Couple of tech delays, couple more. Boys are still warming up. Everything's good. Having your meals, chilling out on the couch, watching the games, doing everything you do. Next game goes, fucking drags out as well. Jesus Christ, it's fucking late. nitr0 and Masuda and ZywOo, because they're all young and sprightly, they haven't left the room. They're just fucking glued there playing deathmatch, getting their aim in, ready to fucking frag. The other boys, Shox and Apex, they're out there with eXtaz, they're sitting on the couch, they're just chatting some shit, watching the TV. And then the series finally ends, and they go, all right, fuck yeah, boys, let's go, let's get in the room. And they all go in the room, and they forget to turn off the fucking TV, right? That, for me, is probably the most likely situation of what actually happened. Now, the question becomes, Striker, and I'm going to throw this one your way, is whether or not that's the point, right? Because this is where the other side is. This is where the community side is. This is the other content being made around this stuff. Is that the point? The fact that these people were negligent and they clearly fucked up, right? There's no doubt about that. But regardless of that, should we be prosecuting to the full sense of the law? Is this because that's obviously the people, the angry mobs mentality, right? Do you think that there's any merit in that they should have been disqualified? We should have got rid of them. Can you see that angle?
No, I definitely am. I definitely are on the side of I don't really give a shit, to be honest. Like if you wanted to, you could get away with it very easily. Even with 3 cameras in the room, even with all the communication recorded, you can have a screen off to the side. Like, they have a fucking glass room, right? If they wanted to, they could have the screen off to the side where no cameras can see it. And even the players can fucking look at it if they just glance over to a teammate, right? There's so many situations where you could get away with it very easily. And you just can't prevent it. So I feel like if there are rules that you just can't prevent and they are this easily gone around, then like what's even the fucking point, right, of having that and of prosecuting everybody for doing that, especially considering like now the standard is like a 5-6 minute delay on the stream, where like literally the only time, as Twistzz said, where it has any sort of big impact is when you can read the economy in a technical pause for the next round, right? And they've tried to get around that by not showing the economy during those technical pauses and stuff like that, but obviously it's still pretty hard to do.
This is the one thing, and we've said this before on the show, and I don't know what we were talking about at the time, but I'm going to say it again. Can we just not fucking cheat, right? Let's just leave it there. let's just leave it there. Where it's a game with competitors, and I know what I'm saying here is ridiculous because people, when there's money and pursuit and glory and all this kind of shit, people cheat. Look at the fucking, what's his name? Lance Armstrong, right? People cheat. But can we try and at least just as people just hold ourselves to a better standard? And can we also try, because like I fucked up as well by like jumping to conclusions quickly. Can we also try and like, let's try and be sensible about things in a way? Because it's just crazy. Because I was reading these Reddit detective morons also in the threads going, well, Liquid had the game on in the fucking background too, man. And it's like Jason's PC literally in game as the code. I'm like, what are you guys talking about? Like, are we just out for blood? Do we just want to spill as much blood and ruin Counter-Strike? That's fine. Let's do it. We can all go to Valorant, right? Let's just all go to Valorant and fuck it. We've only been doing this for the majority of my fucking life. Let's just let's just throw it all in because we just want to blow as much shit up as we can. Because that's the way it's starting to feel. Reality TV is exciting for everybody, right, at home because it's drama, right? That's what it is. You know, you watch Big Brother, you go, oh, she's flirting with this guy, but we also saw her flirting with this guy. You know, that's what this shit is. And that's the shit we get off on because we're human beings and we're fucked in the head. But instead of being like that, can we try and just be a little bit better, right? Because we don't have to be like that. And if we all try, we can all be a little bit better. Anyway, do we have anything else we want to touch on with this one, boys? Or do we want to keep
talking about
moving?
Blast?
All right, Blast. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Actually, there was one ESIC situation that I don't know how it got swept under the rug.
Here we go.
But there
was
NA players that clearly match fixed too, and that they moved to
I
Valorant.
think that's still coming.
Yeah, this investigation's gone on forever. Like I feel like it's just they're hoping people forget about it.
So this one here, now, Russell, you've just lit a fucking match and thrown it into the world because now I feel what you're saying here is that people were not doing what the Aussie players were doing. These people were intentionally going for a bit of an eye by power maneuver. Is that what we're saying?
Yes.
Okay. And these players have moved to Valorant, right?
Yes.
Okay. So this is where the thing is, we all kind of know like the type of players that you're talking about here, and I'm not going to throw out any names because I don't want to falsely accuse people of this shit. But apparently, Striker, you can correct me on this one. I know that you keep up with all the ESIC shit. They're still working on this, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So are we expecting anything from this in the near future? Have you heard anything?
Not particularly. I had somebody ask me about it if I've heard anything, just because whatever. I don't want to get into it too much because I would probably throw somebody under the bus. But I've been asked about it, like if I've heard anything, but I just really haven't. I think that's kind of be like behind closed doors. They're trying to figure it out, like how deep it went and stuff like that. But we've heard about it before. Like they've even publicly stated that they're looking into these into like very serious allegations of match fixing in the NAMDL. And all that, so we know that it's coming. We just don't know when, and that, I guess it's just taking a long time because there's a lot to process.
I think that something as well to consider might be what kind of grounds the ESIC have to help prosecute. Like if they want to just ban people from Counter-Strike, that's one thing. But if these people, what they're doing is a crime, right? And I think gambling in America, obviously quite a strict thing with the whole Vegas stuff and everything like that, but I don't know if ESIC have their clause in North American legislation and stuff as well as they do in Australia, because one of the blokes from ESIC is Australian, I think.
I mean, they have Australian base.
There you go. So I think for them it may have been, and this sounds bad, but I don't care. I think some of the Australian stuff was low hanging fruit. It was like, yeah, we can get away with this because we know what the law is on this within Australia, right? So they were so maybe the North American stuff, they just need to cross their T's and dot their I's a bit more, because if it is as bad as what we're saying and thinking here, this type of stuff is where Valve probably come back in with the ban hammer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I wouldn't be surprised if they were involved, by the way.
Yeah. Well, look, we've all heard murmurs of how bad this shit is, and the thing is, I don't even know what we do about it. Like in the sense of, like I just said, can we just not cheat? This is just that some people, like I said, like I can think of a couple of North American players who are a bit hard up in life, don't have a lot of money, were basically hoping they could win rank S to get their money to pay like rent and that kind of shit. And for them, they're obviously looking at the world in a different perspective, right? But anyway, Russell, unless do you want to say more on this? Do you got any more you want to put on this one?
No, I just think there should be a bigger punishment for trying to steal money and swap to a different game.
Okay. Yeah. Well, hopefully that punishment comes. Let's look forward here to the Blast Global Finals. Now, this one here, like I said, I saw you tweeting to your ex teammates after their games and stuff. So were you paying close attention to the Liquid matches? Yeah,
I watched all the Liquid matches.
Nice.
I mean, I almost watch every match, but I specifically pay attention to the Liquid ones.
So what did you make of Fallen's first look in the lineup?
Like I tweeted, it seemed great.
Yeah.
I love seeing a fresh like primary opper. I love seeing him have the T-side op every chance that he could on Nuke specifically. It was just people, especially like I mentioned in the online era, it's so important to have this constant like threat, this constant presence of an opper where like they're closing off angles and the other team knows it's not safe to peek, And that's exactly what he's doing for him. It seems like he's brought like a fresh like positivity into the team. When you looked at the camps, he was one of the only people I didn't see like triggered or tilted. You saw after the matches, even though he lost, he went and like shook everyone's hands, tried to bring the team back up. And that was definitely something that wasn't in the team before.
Okay. So I think me, Prof, and Striker might have not some splaining to do, but on a previous episode when this was all rumored, the three of us were quite negative about this change, Russell. And the reason that we were negative was because we didn't know whether or not Fallen had it in him, right? We thought Fallen had dropped off in MIBR. We thought he had too many other big priorities in his life, like the companies he's got and stuff, and all of that going on to have the focus where it needs to be. Now, the proof is obviously in the pudding, right, Striker? They played pretty well for a team that had limited practice with a new player, a new system, obviously, with having a primary AWPer come in. Do you think this honeymoon phase, or do you think he clearly has that hunger that we were thinking wasn't there?
I definitely thought from like, obviously, like this is some of the highlights that we saw, like the, like the ace on Inferno, like that where he got mega lucky, like a part of it. But he had like a lot of pretty good highlights that made me think, okay, this looks a little bit more like the old Fallen that we know. Obviously, like he didn't do this on a consistent basis. He wasn't like a mega star in that team or anything like that. But he definitely had moments where I thought that, okay, this is like a hungry Fallen that could actually be a star again, So I'm still cautious about it, just to see if this actually continues, or if this is just like a honeymoon period type thing that we saw with a lot of teams. But I'm definitely positively, I'm not surprised. I was on the edge already. I was kind of like on the fence about this for a long time. I could see the upside for sure, just because of the roles, fitting in a lot better than before with the in-game leader and AWPer coming in. And so, yeah, this is just making me feel like go over to the edge that this is probably going to go well for them, at least in the long run.
I would like to say that Liquid's seen success with every Brazilian player they've ever had.
Oh,
true.
So there's never been a failed Brazilian teammate in Liquid, and like sadly, like goes back to like the 2018 like Steel situation, I think, where he left earlier in the year, purely because he felt like he wasn't up to par with the rest of his teammates, which was sad considering we just won summits. But yeah, that team always saw success with Taco, Zeus's coach, and now they're going to see with Fallen probably.
All right, that's actually a pretty cool way of looking at it, because we spoke about like Zeus in there and stuff. We mentioned those in the last show, but I think like Prof, you recall what we were saying. Are you ready to jump ship after one performance?
No way.
Okay,
not even close. Like,
all right.
I'm staying on the not the best solution for Liquid both. Like,
all right.
Like, we didn't say that was the worst thing ever. Just kind of underwhelming for Liquid, bringing in Fallen. Additionally, I think we can even double down on that, seeing that Stewie is still calling in the team. So they didn't really do the two birds with one stone. They only got an AWPer, so maybe they could have gotten a different AWPer. Obviously, they played better. They played pretty good overall. But when you look at Fallen individually, it wasn't super great. It was like the second worst rated player on the team as the AWPer, right?
Okay. Yeah.
If you look at his KD is -1 for the tournament. So that isn't super exciting for me. So I'll stay where I am. We'll see. Maybe they change my mind.
That's a fair one.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like you're not. I mean, I feel like people aren't realizing the fact that I think he is actually mid-round calling quite often, and
I would imagine he has input for sure.
Yeah,
there's no way he doesn't.
As an AWPer, you're always gonna have input, and with his amount of experience he has to be just saying whatever comes to his mind. What gaps. He's not gonna just stay quiet. So I feel like he's utilizing every aspect. But maybe Stewie's coming up with the game plan in the initial part of the round, and Fallen takes over, once the first 20 seconds has calmed down.
I wanna jump ship. I want to jump ship.
Okay.
I want to be a turncoat on the shit I said last week, because what I said last week was, if Fallen was calling, I don't think things are going to be good. I'm glad that Stewie's still calling, right? Because I think that at least that means that we're going to get newer ideas. That means if Fallen gets to call within the mid-round of those new ideas, great. I think the point that Russell made about him, bringing up the morale and all that kind of stuff, if he must be a fantastic teammate, right? Because he's done this for a long time. He's also he is the elder statesman of the team, in the sense that he is quite significantly older than all of his teammates, right? He brings quite a big chunk from that angle. And if he can keep a positive vibe and do that stuff that's missing, because even we saw a Liege losing is cool, and we don't normally see a Liege lose is cool in that way when they were playing in those matches, right? Stewie, yeah, we know he's fucking arms up, whatever. He's an emotional player, yep. Grim, you can see him getting a bit frustrated. Naf, I don't even know if he ever. I don't know what's going on.
No, it doesn't
Naf.
change.
Okay, but having fallen there, doing the fist bumps, he making some impactful plays and stuff, and just having that guy there, if he is focused, right, which I still don't know. I have to leave the jury out on that because we have to wait and see how that transpires. But so far, good signs. And I know that Prof, you said he had, what was it, -1 KD overall?
Yeah.
Okay, the teams that they were playing against before he joined Liquid, these were the last 3 teams that Fallen played against before he played with Liquid. Was Copenhagen Flames, Apex, and Gambit Youngsters. Obviously Gambit now, and they're quite good. But those were the 3 teams back in September. Was it September? Yeah, that was the level of Counter-Strike he was playing at before. He's had since then off, and he's come in. He's played against NAVI. He's played against Vitality. He's played against EG and then NAVI again in this new team. So I'm going to jump ship because I thought it was a terrible move, basically. And I thought, why didn't they just get fucking some young AWPer and just make it work? But maybe this is what they needed, because before it was almost like floundering, right? Yeah, nitr0, I guess I'll fucking England lead. Yeah, no one else can. I guess I'll fucking AWP. Like it was that's kind of how Liquid felt to me. Like it was like, well, look, we'll plug the gaps with what we have. Now it's like, okay, well, we want this AWPer, we'll get this AWPer, right? And if he can contribute and make Stewie a better in-game leader, that is only going to be a good thing. So obviously I'm a bit of a turncoat here, but I was impressed with Liquid. To be fair, I thought they looked well organized in terms of their executes, right? That obviously Nuke, for example, against NAVI on that first map, those top executes were great for them. I think that there was just some moments where they were losing a lot of number advantage situations that they probably shouldn't have, and some silly rounds here and there. But all in all, it was a much better showing from Liquid than I had anticipated, right? They came 4th overall at the event. So with a win over NAVI and a win over domestic rivals EG, who were also looking pretty decent. So all in all, I think it's better than I was originally anticipating. So that's why I'm changing my stance.
I mean, if anything, like his stats aren't even actually bad for facing 2 top 3 teams in the world, by the way. Like these stats are definitely good for facing like literally the best of the best. And against EG, he was actually he had like a good stats. And it was just like a bad map against what was it, the first one or the second match against NAVI that they lost. Well, the first map where he actually didn't play particularly well. So like the rest has been okay from him. So I feel like let's see how he does like the next event. If this is just like if he actually does play better or if he does play well, then I guess we'll have to see.
I mean, I watched every match, and from what I saw, like he had very, very few misses. Like I might saw him like miss like 4 or 5 times when he had the AWP. So he had a lot of crucial rounds, a lot of crucial rotations. And yeah, I feel like the impact was a lot more than what people were seeing.
There's one question I wouldn't mind asking you here, Russell, is obviously Mouz coming in as a coach from being a caster position. What were like your expectations of what he was going to bring? But you kind of alluded to it before. You were saying it was more to do with personalities for him. Is that still kind of what it was when you left the team? Was he still mainly just focused on that, or was it I don't know, helping you guys work on communication or focusing on like getting back to the basics, or did he have any niches that he was trying to target as a coach?
I think all of the above, to be honest. Yeah, I think Liquid's like next priority should be get a psychologist on board, work with everyone, and who knows, maybe they already got that, but that's what we lost earlier in the year, to be honest. So we didn't have our psychologist working closely. But yeah, I think if a psychologist and Jason gets to work with the team closely, then I think they're going to see a lot of success. I mean, I think Fallen's a tremendous like pickup, to be honest. Like I know he replaced me, but I had the option to stay there. I chose the left, so. But I think he's a great person.
Okay, so another one here, just one other staff member I know you guys have there. I don't know how much you got to work with this guy, but is it HEPA? HEPA, is that the analyst for you guys?
Yeah, the analyst.
So I don't want you to give me the guy's homework, for example, but we hear about these analysts in these teams, and we never really get to dig too deeply into what kind of stuff is he offering up. Is he there in practice with you guys, or is he just giving stuff to Jason or the in-game leader? Like, how does that whole dynamic work?
He honestly, he does a lot. He was the analyst for Movie Star Writers,
Okay.
and I feel like he was one of the reasons that they saw a lot of success, that team. The things that he does, he like goes and finds nades, like the most updated nade sets for whatever spot. If there's a jump through instead of a walk through, he'll find it. He'll find one-way mollies. He's showing some of those crazy one-way smokes that like all of us just look at and we're like, how the fuck did he do it? Like how much time did he spend finding this? But yeah, he does a lot of research, and his notes are really useful.
Okay, cool. Because for us, like when we're talking about this stuff, when we're on this side, we don't know what's going on with like the analysts and the coaches and everything like that. So it's always nice to at least hear a little bit. So let's kind of keep moving this one forward with the Blast Global Finals, because we covered off Liquid.
Well, just one more detail about this. I feel like actually I don't really know if this is like the byproduct of the Fallen Edition, but Nav definitely looked way more unlocked than before, when he was kind of like locked in, half hopping, half not. So I've definitely, this was like one of the best events that I've seen from him in a long time. So I'm hoping this is a byproduct and we're gonna get to see more of Nav, because I feel like last year he was obviously still good, but he wasn't the Nav from 2019, that we saw just to wreck everybody almost every event. So I'm hoping that's gonna come back.
He was pretty tired of opping.
Oh yeah,
especially from some of our results. He was upset that he couldn't do more with the rifle. He was playing Arch on Inferno, and a lot of times he felt like he didn't even want to op. He wasn't comfortable opping. He wanted the rifle, and it's sad like he got forced into this position. I mean, I don't want to say too much, but I also wanted the op for a little bit. I wanted to be like the primary opper, just to fill that role, just so like people like know that there's a person that's dedicated and solely learning this role. And it sadly got shut down, but I think Nav did a great time. He did pretty good, like opping. He held his own against most oppers.
That's the thing, right? You guys were in limbo for such a long period of time without like a primary AWPer. Must have and having that against some of these top tier teams must have been frustrating as fuck. But I think for me, and I don't know if what you've actually, perfect man to ask, Alige was a little bit quieter, right? Like, do you think that's an adjustment for a player like him with now having to play with a primary AWPer? Do you think that would have made his life a little bit more difficult for Alige? Did he have to change many spots? Was there anything that you noticed, Russell, firsthand when watching?
The only thing I can notice was he kind of took up some of my lurking spots.
Okay.
So specifically what I saw at T-Sign Inferno, he's the one kind of like, controlling rotates. He might be flanking CT spawn or catch them coming back to save. On Nuke, he was a bit more passive outside, I guess. He didn't try to go for some of the plays that I would usually see him do. So maybe Fallen's like, I mean, I don't know how the team's working now, but maybe there's some sort of leash. Even when like the team would hit like ramp, he would be back like holding lobby and stuff. So I think his role's definitely changed, and he's becoming more passive, which I'm not necessarily a fan of. I think Alige is a great aggressive player, and from my time on the team, I always learn like the most from him, and I feel like he should still be in like a star role.
Oh, for sure. The guy's a fucking monster. So hopefully they can figure that out and put him where he needs to be. Let's move into this Navi discussion just quickly, boys. So Navi live up to their potential is the headline you've rolled with here, Prof. Do we?
Did I say anything wrong?
No. But why is it still feel like it's which day is it Navi? You know what I mean? Like, did Navi wake up and they feel good? Why is it still that team?
We can't really quantify it. Like, we see these games where like this tournament where Boomish probably had his best tournament ever
since Katowice.
Probably, maybe even better than that. I didn't.
Okay.
Maybe someone could check, but just like from the eye test, this was one of his best tournaments. Then we also had like Perfecto again on the clutch machine, like 9 clutches I think for the tournament. Everything was just like that Navi. And then the other day is just not that Navi. Boomish isn't getting any entry kills. He's just entry dying. And Perfecto can't really clutch because he's 1v4 instead of 1v2. And then Electronic has one of those bad games. And just nothing happened. Here we saw Electronic as well. I think what Nuke T side is where he does most of the work, when Simple is kind of can't really find that much impact, maybe, considering normal Simple impact, not like normal player impact. And then we saw Electronic carry them there on the T side. Like, everything was perfect. And then we see that again? Who knows?
And that, I guess, is the problem, right? Because it's super hit and miss. But I think if we just look at, once again, we'll start this fucking narrative up again one more time. This level of Navi right here, I think I saw Cuban make a tweet about this whole flamey bit situation, saying it was the second series out of 9. I think it was the one before, maybe it was the liquid one. I'm not sure which series it was, where both Bit and Flamey had positive ratings. I think that's what his angle was. Do we feel like Striker Bit's being thrown in the deep end here and just being told to swim, or is there a little bit more to this that I'm not seeing?
Honestly, don't know. I'm not sure what their thinking was behind this, specifically behind Inferno. I guess it wasn't their best map before, so I guess they were. I mean, that's even what Simple said in his top 20 interview. That basically that was the thinking, that they wanted to fix Inferno with this. Has it really worked? I don't know.
Ish.
I wouldn't say he's the reason for it, though. At least I haven't noticed anything special that he does better than Flamey would have done. So it's like I don't really know whether I would put any credit towards this change at all. If anything, I haven't noticed any change. So I guess that's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. I just feel like it's okay. It just happened, right?
Yeah.
I didn't really see it as a positive.
Yeah, it's a weird one to have him as the 6th man when you consider all the talent in the CIS region. But didn't they even have like an AWPer on their roster, Prof, for the Navi junior squad or whatever it was that they could have picked up and done like a Vitality version on Inferno, where like just put Simple to anchor B and let it nitr0 type player play Arch?
Maybe they didn't want to like copy that far. Or maybe they didn't feel like it's the same issue that Vitality had, because I guess Vitality's
the same role as Flamey, so it's like, I mean, same place at least.
Yeah, I mean, what I saw against Astralis is just like they played different setups in mid that won them the CT side like quite easily, even though they had a good lead as well. But that's the only thing that I noticed being different, and that's not like, definitely Bit didn't call those setups. Let's boost Simple on the fucking balcony. I'm sure that didn't happen. So I don't know. For me, Bit has been really not that impressive. Like, he played some good games as well. You have to think that his first game was literally Astralis as well last year. Literally, hey, this is your first game in Navi. Play Astralis, get destroyed. Like, yeah, that's amazing for his confidence. But other than that, I don't know. I think it's kind of a non-factor in Navi's win, the whole 6th man thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you never know, right? Maybe their decision behind placing him on replacing Flame on one map was purely so, you know, Flame could stay like warmed up or whatever, like going to the other map. You know, that could be, or Bit's just more comfortable like playing the position that Flamey is playing, and maybe Flamey is more comfortable in Nuke. You know, vice versa. That's probably why, I would imagine.
What do you think of the whole 6th man situation, Russell, overall? Like, do you think it's a good option? Because we've obviously seen a couple of teams do it now. Do you think it's in general just people taking advantage of the online era? Do you think it's something for the future? Do you think it's something, why the fuck not? Like, what's your take?
I think it's part of the future. I don't think every team will jump on board with it, but I'm pretty sure like league teams do it too. You know, they have a 6 like person or someone from the academy team that jumps in. And I think it's a normal thing, to be honest. The online era obviously just made it easier to start off with and test it out. But I think it can be a good idea. The only time I'm not a fan of it is, say, like, when someone like Shox is like going huge in like a series, like playing really well, he's like on fire and stuff, and then you see him like get subbed out. That's when I'm always just like, but like, there's a chance he doesn't play well, but there's also a high chance that he does play well because he's already like in the zone. So I actually think it's good that orgs are like, or teams are dedicating to the change, where, you know, even if the player is playing good, they still swap him out to give the other player the chance. And I mean, it's working. Vitality's seeing success, and Navi just won an event using a 6-man roster, so there has to be something more behind it.
Yeah, and this is also just down to like them going into this change with the maps in mind, right? They've prepared with these lineups, so it's like keeping a player who didn't play that, or like, let's say nitr0 goes ham on Dust 2 at Inferno, and the third map is whatever, Vertigo, like, and he comes in to play a map that he hasn't really practiced. Obviously, like, that's not going to work out, right? So it's just comes down to the preparation, I feel like, and yeah, it's not an easy choice.
That was the point that like Semler and Anders were talking about on broadcast, right? Because I think it was Shox had like a really banger game on Overpass, and then he got subbed out for the next map. But I think that's the thing. If you practice with all 6 players on all of your map pool, and they're interchangeable in that way, and someone's having like a mad one and just like, well, fuck, Shox is going back to 2008. Let's leave this guy in, right? And you can do that. Then that would be fine. But it's like, the way that I understand it, and from the conversations I think we've had with Apex and stuff in interviews, it's like, well, I know maybe it's just what we theory crafted. I don't even know exactly if we got to the bottom of this, but it would seem like so players can have more of a chance to have downtime or off time or whatever, that say like when they're pracking Inferno, Shox can just fuck off, right? Like he doesn't need to be there because everyone else will just take care of the Inferno stuff, which means he gets to focus on less. And that's why, like, I think in the conversation, you might see more out of certain players on certain maps because they have less to focus on overall. It's still a weird one. Like, it's still a super weird situation to find ourselves in, having this discussion. It's not something I ever thought we'd be doing. But it seems pretty seamless. I thought we were going to have a lot more delays, a lot more issues, like with the back end not working properly and shit. But it seems like so far these teams are making it work. Do we think that this NAVI now, like, I know it's like light switch on and off, but do we think that now that they've started this year in the online era, knowing the online Counter-Strike is probably going to continue, that they're going to be able to at least continue this? Whereas like the start of last year, they started and then they stumbled and then they fell and then they had to stand up again, right? Do we think that this one's going to continue forward for a little while, Prof?
Nah.
Still think it's just all over the place?
What we already saw is going to repeat. Like,
okay.
Like we probably see like Boomage fall off a bit, and then that's gonna have like a cascading effect on the team,
okay,
and everyone else's performance. I don't think they're gonna be like trash. But it's just gonna be similar to last year when they had some great tournaments, and then maybe the next one is also pretty good, but then 3 events from now, they're gonna finish like 4th or whatever. So that's what I expect. So hope to be proved. Like the funniest thing is, like on Twitter, everyone thinks I'm a NAVI hater. Like I'm definitely not. Like, but I've been burned so many times that I have like this PTSD, and I kind of hate them. And but I don't hate them. I just kind of make fun of myself and them simultaneously.
Yeah, this is. I mean, I have the same. I have the same kind of feeling. This is every time about NAVI, man. They have like one sick tournament where you're like, okay, this is how this NAVI is supposed to work. This is gonna be great, fantastic. Next event, they just like 5th to 6th. They do okay, but don't really have that next level where they just destroy everybody, right? Like this is kind of each all over again, man. I feel like I don't feel like Boomage is gonna be at this level for like the next 3 tournaments. Maybe he's gonna have like one more tournament like this in the next 3, and they win another tournament like that. But this is not gonna be a consistent thing, I don't think. Not by what we saw in 2020.
With what Striker's saying here, right? This is our side, right? This is what we say all the time from like an analyst desk, a pundit's position, like just the general consensus with NAVI is this team is so up and down, you don't know what you're going to get, right? You said before that you guys always had a pretty good time against NAVI in the past. Did you look at them in that same way, or did you actually have a way to, when you went up against them, to make sure that Simple wasn't getting away with his, like he's going to get a couple, right? Simple's going to have a couple of those rounds.
Exit frags.
Yeah. But how did, like, because you said you could handle them, right? Or you had a pretty good showings against them. Like, did you not look at them as the off and on is the same way as we described them? Was it more like you have an understanding of just how to beat NAVI?
That's kind of what it was. You know, we never thought they weren't a good team. We just had a good game plan against them every time we faced them, and we kind of felt like they were always underwhelming against us.
Okay,
and it's kind of the MIBR syndrome, I guess, where every time we play them, we could be playing like the worst form ever, but the second we play them, we just run all over them, you know?
Okay,
but
that's holy shit, that's interesting.
I think the second, I mean, we always focus like simply, you know, we found ways to like neutralize him where he's not going to have the impact that he normally could have against teams. But when we're at our best, there was no gaps for him to really abuse, you know? Like maybe he'll like op one of us to the smoke or whatever, he'll op one of us blind, but then he'll get traded. Like in 2019, we had the best trade statistics out of any team. And I think that's why he didn't get away with most of the shenanigans that he did.
Okay. It's just trade. It's simple. Just make sure he doesn't get a multi.
Just don't get no scope, dude.
Yeah.
I try
that on you last night. Didn't go well.
Don't get fadeaway P250.
Yeah.
Even the last round on Inferno, like I had the sound off. The last round on Inferno where he gets those 3 deagle kills, I had the sound of me, Henry, and Alex were watching. And like he gets the first one, and then like Henry stands up and he gets the second one, and we're all fucking losing our minds like he'd won the round. Obviously didn't have enough time to defuse. But it's just like this guy, man. It's like anything that this guy's doing is fucking mental. But
so basically the plan against Simple is stay as close together as possible without getting double, with like collateral.
That's kind of how like with any offer, to be honest. And
Yeah.
I feel like the only time it doesn't work is when we fucking play Device. Every time we get collateraled, and yeah, it's always against him. But yeah, that's definitely how you should play against like most like top tier offers. Like you gotta find a way to trade them immediately.
Well, I think this would take us, because you've just brought up Device, into the last little topic here as far as Blast goes. Because, look, we saw from EG, they look pretty good. We saw from Fury with Honda, he got some aces. That was pretty sick, actually. We might sink some time into that in the future, discussing just those aces in the context of a rookie and all that. Who else did we see? Complexity, we don't even need to talk about them. Shit, it's a sinking ship. We'll get stuck into...
I think it's an unlucky situation for them.
Yeah.
Yep.
I especially feel bad for JKS. Actually,
people are lighting him up pretty hardcore right now. He's copping it. I hope he stays strong. I don't even know what to say to him anymore. I just kind of leave him over there now. I'm like, Justin, it'll be all right. But well, who else did we see? That's 3 teams. Who am I missing here? Obviously we had Liquid get top. Okay. Yeah, that's about it. So let's look at the top 3, because that's what we were discussing, right? Is the fact that Astralis, Vitality, and NAVI are the big boys, right? We know that it kind of Astralis and Vitality were on that extra level. NAVI, we weren't too sure. Has NAVI done enough right now, Striker, in your mind, to be put up on that pedestal with? Oh, I forgot G2. Up on that pedestal with the other 2 names now, like to be considered constantly as a contender for events, or you still want to see more? Are we still on that point? We still need to see more.
I mean, to be fair, they were always kind of like a contender, they just lacked that, like the next level, where they just destroy everybody as they did, like in Katowice or like at this event, I guess, at least for the majority of it. So it's like they've always been up there. It's like they were like one of the most consistent teams of last year, even though they had this like up and down nature, which is just kind of, yeah, I guess that's ironic, but that's just how it was, right? They got a lot of top 4 finishes last year. Like they just didn't have enough of the finals or whatever for people to have them in their minds as this like elite level team, that's going to be in the conversation for titles all the time. And that's kind of how I see NAVI for a long time, actually. Like I feel like that's kind of been their identity forever, almost, in Counter-Strike, where they're always like a top 4 team winning, like, every now and again they'll just hit this level where they win, but they're just never going to do it consistently like all year long, and I feel like that's just never changed. And I'm not sure that we've seen anything this tournament that is making me feel like that's going to change. So yeah, it's just same old NAVI, I feel like.
All right. Well, what about Astralis and Vitality, Prof? Because we've spoken a lot about NAVI here. Do we think that obviously Astralis made it to the final, Vitality made it to the semi-final, the loser bracket final? Do we think here that the 3 teams that we're talking about are all going to have legs to them this year and maintain that level above everybody else? Do we see weaknesses? Do we think the likes of Liquid can get there? Heroic's still going to be in the mix, or do you think it's quite clear?
Yeah, I mean, it looks like these 3 teams are going to continue being the top teams. I think Astralis looked pretty good overall. Of course, in the grand final, NAVI was just better, but it's not like Astralis looked like trash. They just got destroyed, lost the first map kind of close, and then the second map they were never in it, right? But it's not like you saw some glaring mistakes or one player being like off pace or something like that. I think their like Boobski thing with Nuke, this doesn't really help overall. I think their win rate on Nuke is still about like 50%. They lost their last 3, some of them pretty one-sided losses. So that seems kind of meh. But otherwise they look pretty good. Vitality, same as last year, more or less. Maybe not completely. They do have some hiccups here and there, and some rounds where
a lot of clutches.
Yeah, ZywOo needs to clutch these 1v4s and 1v3s and stuff like that. But similar to last year, I think they're still the strongest teams. Of course, especially if we continue online, we'll have the Heroics, we'll have Big, we'll have some team to make a crazy run here and there. That's going to happen surely. But overall, if you look like the whole year, I think they're going to be the main teams.
All right.
I mean, don't we all kind of see like Astralis going back on the 6 map? I mean, maybe not necessarily entirely, but at least on the Nuke experiment, because I feel like it hasn't really been working out for them. Even looking at how Bubsky has been playing, he hasn't really had any, like he had 1 good game. I think I was looking at his stats from the Nuke games that he played. I think he had 1 good games out of like 7 Nukes that he played in the since December, right? Early December, that he first started playing Nuke only for the team. So I feel like eventually Astralis will realize that it's not really doing anything, and they're probably just going to bring back ZywOo just because they're going to play with him every other time, right? So I'm not sure if this is maybe this was ZywOo's call, right? Maybe he doesn't just doesn't really feel comfortable playing Nuke anymore for whatever reason. I guess that's possible, but I just see like in the near future them bringing back ZywOo for Nuke as well, and then just playing 5-man the entire time.
Hey, anything's possible. Russell, we're going to get the quick one here from you and then ask you some questions and then close this thing down, mate. So I want you, the top 3 that we just listed, do you think anybody will be in touching distance with them to compete on a regular basis? Obviously, Prof mentioned like Heroic and the Bigs. They might have these little peaks. But do you think there's anybody else that you've seen? Obviously, not a lot of Counter-Strike's been played. And let's say you can't say Liquid, but you can say FaZe, who might be able to be able to compete with those 3.
I mean, it's hard to say, right? Online CS is so random, and that's all 2020 has really shown us, that there's no consistent number 1.
Yeah.
And you know, I think there's a lot of teams that can stay up to par. I mean, Heroic has always won the challenge. I mean, they won important events like throughout the year, and I think they're always going to be around that area. Most sports, I think, even if they do go ahead with the changes, they're going to remain in that like that position to be a top 5 team. And you know, same goes for Liquid or any team that undergoes like a good roster change that's positive. And yeah, I mean, online CS is super random. You can't, you know, it's not like Astralis won like every event. It's not like NAVI won every event. Same goes for Vitality. I mean, for part of the year, I thought G2 was the best team for sure.
Yeah.
But then like Big was just like rolling them at every chance. And it's just, I don't know, there's no like era, and it's hard to like build storylines right now.
Do you like it better this way, or do you prefer it like when it was like obviously you and Astralis the most dominant?
I feel like I'm very biased when it comes to answering the question. Nah, I'm kidding. I think LAN builds a lot of consistency though.
Yeah.
And you know, you're playing on stage and stuff. There's more at stake. The more nerves going around. You know, people, you know, go back to this fucking Coke Zero meme. People just drinking Coke at home, chilling, banging heads. Nah, it's not the same when it comes to like events and on LAN stuff. Teams play very different. There's so much more. Even it comes down to like small things like audio cues. You know, you can't hear everything because there's so much like stage. There's a lot of noise going on, or maybe you lose focus. So like more things get past you, or say like there's people that feed off of like adrenaline and energy, and they perform when the pressure is on. And online, you don't get that, and it's hard to give like a constant number 1, like a team that's like really good. And I would just go ahead and say Astralis, even though they lost. Because even though they're a 6-man roster, they show the most consistency.
Sure. This is perfect. We're just going to, don't worry about playing the bumper leagues. We're just going to transition to asking you questions now, right? Because you just spoke a lot about LAN versus online. You have a plethora of experience in LAN finals and stuff like that. But I remember I was either doing an interview on an ESL broadcast, or we were talking about it on the show here. And we were talking to a player, and he was talking about the different types of angles and stuff that you have to hold online, and that you can't get away with the same things like you wouldn't get away with that on LAN. I think maybe it was Dexter, who we were talking to, or it was Magix who I was talking. I forget. But is there anything like that that you think is glaringly obvious, other than say the sound cues and stuff? Is there anything about people's gameplay?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like both if either one of those players like mentioned it, they're smart for mentioning it, because that's exactly how it is. You know, that's why I mentioned like the op and how like impactful it is, because you're crouch peeking the things and you don't get punished unless like you have another opper holding it. And I mean, it just comes back to, I don't know. I know NAV made a joke, which is a bunch of internet abusers, and I think it's so funny because I feel like that term holds like truth to it.
Okay.
Because I can't like hold a very tight angle and like 2-bullet this guy running around the corner. He'll wide swing at like a speed that I can't react to, and then he'll like shoot me back, and that's just how it is. That's how online CS is.
It feels like it's been years, like going back to honestly, we're talking 10 years ago, since saying do it on LAN was like an insult. Because I don't know if it was big for you boys like it was back in like my local scene, but like if someone was like really good when we were playing like online and scrims and shit, you just like type do it on LAN, right? That's what you would type. That was like half the shit that people would type. It feels like we've gotten back to that, but I don't know if like this perspective is one that I try and consider. Do you think that the general level of Counter-Strike has increased because of this online period? Just the amount of games, the amount of competition, and the amount of time people are spending just practicing and playing. It feels like to me like it's kind of accelerated a little bit. Do you get that sense at all when playing?
Yeah, of course. I mean, looking at the year, technically we do have the most competition we've ever had, right? We have 3 of the best players on the top 3 teams. So, I mean, we do have technically the best competitions we've ever had in like CS. You know, it's not the same like Liquid Assault's the final like every weekend. It's a different team playing a different team in a final every time. And yeah, I think it's good for the environment. Is it bad for the storylines, or you know, how can you build on the CS? I think so. Yeah, I mean, you're kind of seeing the same thing kind of go around each time, and it sucks not being able to have a clear cut number 1. But yeah, that's how it is.
Sure. All right, Prof. This bag of questions we got for Twistzz. You got any good ones off the top?
Okay, I was just talking to chat. Let me unlock my phone. A lot of them came in on Instagram, actually.
I got one here from Twitter. That's a good one to get to later.
Go.
This is from Lagger15. He says, since everyone seems to focus, I think he meant on the bad parts of NACS, can you tell us some positives about NACS? Were there any positives?
That's, I mean, that's just a hard one, right? That's a super hard
one. A loaded
one.
question.
That's a very loaded question. I don't know. I want to have like more faith in like the North American scene, but right now it's like looking, it's looking dire, and it doesn't help when. I mean, I don't want to like scapegoat envy, but you know, they really sucked when it came to building around Nifty. And, you know, maybe Nifty was just a terrible like leader on the team, you know, maybe he had too much say in like the roster moves or whatever, but there could have been like a good NA team there. You know, unfortunately, you know, Triumph was like contending with like other NA teams, and then we went ahead and stole their best player. So it's like you kill that team by doing that.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I mean, you lose. It's crazy actually when you go back and like think about like 2018 or 2017 stuff. You had teams like Splice, a bunch of orgs involved still. I remember CLG was like a thing. And it's crazy how like many orgs are just like gone. There's not much NACS to go around, and I just focus on all the negatives.
Yeah, gonna hit him with a big fat no right there.
I mean, it's hard. I mean, the only positives you have is like EG and Liquid when you're thinking of pure like, you know, majority NA. But I think the NA scene is very lucky to have these Brazilian teams in the region.
Okay. There you go. That's positive. It's a good place for the Brazilian players to be.
Yeah.
All right. Unleash for us, Prof.
A lot of questions, obviously, about the hair. From what I understand, hair tutorial on 100k subs on YouTube. Is that correct?
Yeah, 100k subs on YouTube, and there's an ongoing thing where every time I have a Discord server, by the way, of like 1,500 people. Anytime someone asks for a hair tutorial on my Discord, it goes up to like 1,000 subs.
Okay, so don't ask. Don't ask anymore.
So where can they find you on YouTube, just so we can get that number up?
I believe it's just Twistzz.
Okay, so I did just found it. I did just found it. My English no good. I did just find it.
Please link it in.
I'm gonna link it for everybody, so we can get that up. And
there's just a lot of questions about like future. We obviously answered a lot of them. One was long-term goals for you as a player. Do you see yourself being an in-game leader at one point?
I think so. I think I'm at a point where I have a lot of good ideas in my mind, but when it comes down to like the moments, I can't like put it in the right words to explain it fast enough so everyone understands like what I would want to do. So, and that's like part of an issue I had in Liquid, where like I would say like let's go B, but I have this whole picture in my head, and I don't have time to explain it to other people. So it's like I'm hoping they just trust me and they follow my movements. But it doesn't work like that, and I need to get better at explaining the whole picture fast enough for everyone to understand. And I think in the future I could definitely be an in-game leader.
There's an interesting question from Alex something. It says, what's the worst you felt in the middle of a game?
Oh.
Oof. Well, I'll let you know that it's not when I was playing bad. Okay. So there was, I won't say names, I won't say ever, but there was like a moment where teammates were arguing and some things were said, and it ended up being one of the most miserable matches I've ever played.
Did you win it?
No.
Okay. Kind of expected, I guess. Striker, do you have anything from Twitter that you found in the meantime?
No. That was the lag thing was something that I spotted as well.
I had some more. Hold up.
Okay, go.
Let me see if I can quickly find these for everybody at home. That's another NACS question. We don't really want that one right there. The map pool one I always find interesting because I always like to hear players' takes on that. So yes. For a change in the map pool, do we need to keep it to 7 maps by removing a map Mirage, please? He said in brackets, and replacing it with another one, or if we can add 1 or 2 maps to the pool without removing one. He means making the map pool wider. The problem I saw is adding 1 map is for vetoes. Okay, forget the majority of that question. Let's simplify this. Do you think that we need a map pool change now? If so, what map do you want to see gone?
I'd say you could technically add 1 more map to the map pool. And I would add 1 map and replace 1 map. And
Okay.
I feel like there just needs to be more variety. And I really missed the period of time where we had Cobble and Cash in the mix. And I think that was one of the most like competitive eras. I think probably just because of how random and Vertigo is, and teams only can find one way to play it, and that's either go A or B like right off the bat. So I think the changes that could be made is, I don't know what you guys think about Season, but I actually think Season was a great map, and if it came back, I think it would have success. And then I would also like to see Cobblestone back in its original form.
In the original
I wouldn't mind Season if mid was like approached differently, because it seems like way too open now, like hard to do any like good positions there and stuff like that. If that area was addressed, I feel like Season would be a better map. I wouldn't mind it.
It doesn't take much to change. Like I don't know what the Valve situation is on obtaining Tuscan from a copyright perspective, but I mean, I think Season. I think you have to account for like player models too now, right? Like I don't know if player models will be like introduced in like majors or whatever, or they're allowed. But like a map on Tuscan, there's bushes everywhere, dude. Like you're gonna be blended in, man. And some of these models are really hard to see. Imagine if there's like a colorblind players. It's still difficult. There's no setting that helps with that. And it's difficult for certain models to see. And luckily, the CSPPA got in touch with Valve on that. But I think there's definitely room for a better map pool than we have right now.
So if you were a player in a 6-man roster, what would be the map that you get subbed out of?
Ooh, that's a rough one. Because like the map I hate the most was the site that I actually enjoyed the most.
Okay,
was Vertigo. I was like so tired of the B side on Vertigo that I was just like, dude, get me out of here. Like I'm just like rotating every round. But then teams actually started coming B and it was enjoyable. So yeah, I would actually say Mirage. I really wanted to not play A anymore, and unfortunately that just wasn't possible. So if I still was on Liquid and there's a 6-man roster, I'd say submit to Mirage.
All right. Did you find those ones on?
There's a question. I can maybe rephrase it because it's interesting. We have this ongoing bet between Sponge and Striker and Pimp as well about like international rosters.
But don't bet, guys.
Doesn't matter. Like TLDR, we don't really have a lot of international rosters having consistent success. And at the moment, we also have like Astralis, Vitality, NAVI at the top 3 teams. You played an international roster, but not an international roster because you're all North American, more or less. Where do you see that? Like, is that an issue? Now you're playing in FPL and stuff like that. How do you see the communication potentially developing with you moving to your European team, right?
I think it's a bigger issue when I could be wrong, and I don't want to seem like a bad person anyway by saying this. I feel like Russians have a harder time with grasping like English communication, and I've been on multiple FPL teams where I have 4 Russians on my team, and like it seems like they're explaining things like so in depth, and like they're working well together as like a 4-man unit, and I'm just like doing whatever, and that's okay with me. But I feel like their communication like takes a lot, and it's hard for them to describe things in English as they would in Russian. So yeah, I think having a team that speaks all the native language is super important. But I think most international lineups have been used to speaking English, I'd say.
Sure. Yeah. Look, this bet that I've got, I've defended it now for at least a year. Has it been a year yet?
I think it's been over a year.
Yeah, it must be.
I did make
One
a
of 3
5-year
years,
bet.
right?
Was it 3 or was it 5?
I
Fuck,
think
if it's 3, if it's 3, I might make
I think
it.
it's 5.
If it's 3, I might survive. If it's 5, I have no fucking chance in the world. But basically, Russell, I
I
bet
mean,
Pimp-
5 years from now, we're not going to have any more national, like single national rosters. So
we're gonna have to check the rules. But I bet Pimp and Striker that a international team could not maintain. I think it was top three for 6 months.
Yeah.
Because I think that the communication is that important, right? So we have some rules floating around. So far, so good. I've defended it so far. I don't know how long it's going to last for.
was
there was a time where Mouz sports were like 4 months already, or 4 months in, or like 3 months in for sure.
Late
did you make that bet?
2019.
They dropped completely.
Late
Yeah, like-
2019.
Yeah, late 2019 to early 2020 when they won
Yeah.
Ice Challenge, they were at like 3, I think close to 3 months or just over 3 months.
Yeah.
So
But
that was
they
my
never-
best chance so far.
Weren't they number 1 for like a small period?
Yeah, exactly.
No,
just didn't
not-
hold on
they
to
were
it for
number
long
one.
enough.
Well, number 1, no, I think, but they were number 2 for a long, number 2 and number 3 for a really long time.
G2 made
Okay.
number 1, so they were also
True.
kind of there.
They're speaking English.
There's
But
a,
they don't actually count it according to our rules though, which is a little bit annoying because
What?
because
Ah.
basically Sponge thinks that if you have only 2 nationalities, but it's like 2 and 3 people, then it's actually better than if you have
It's not better.
like 3. Or if it's not as bad communication wise, if it's not just like 3 and more nationalities.
I mean,
like 3
we
and more.
literally we have a clip. We have a clip of G2, Nico, and Hunter in a clutch speaking Serbian. So that
Proof is there.
the proof is in the
I mean,
pudding.
that's fair, you know. If look at 2 Brazilian players and they're in the 2v2, I feel like they should be speaking Portuguese for sure.
Yeah, but the thing is, I was trying to do it. The whole concept is that it's 5 people who none of them speak. Well, maybe one of them speaks English as their
It
native
can even
language.
be 2, I think.
Yeah, but the whole concept is that English is not the primary language of the native speakers. So that everybody collaborating in this communication is such an issue because, like, somebody from Estonia takes something that was said from somebody from fucking Brazil in a different, and like there's always going to be this jankiness in communication.
Drops to FaZe.
No, I don't think that's happening. All right, I don't know if that's happening.
So there's the last
Y'all gotta
question.
relax.
Last question. This one was from chat.
Yeah.
Yes, Twistzz, imagine you're at the NA regional yearly cookout. There are 2
Cookout?
game sessions in progress. EG
What's
roster,
what's a cookout?
like a barbecue, I guess.
It's just like a get together.
Yeah, like you get some food to cook outside
Yeah.
with
Okay.
like a barbecue thing, or not a barbecue, like any kind of a fire, I guess.
Any fire. All right.
Any fire.
Understandable.
Because
In
the
a
barbecue
barrel.
barbecue is the enclosed one where you like
Yeah,
I don't know. You should
Can
probably
you just
know
get
better.
on with the question? What was
There are 2 game sessions in progress.
2
EG
game
roster is comfortably controlling the limbo scene, while the updated Fury roster is crushing the cornhole. Which playing field are you pulling up to challenge?
Ah, dude, I don't even know what cornhole is.
What the fuck is this question?
I don't understand.
The thing is, like, I know what limbo is.
Cornhole is
And
like
I don't
that,
think
like
there's a lot of CS
sliding.
players like limbo. But
You think you could do well at limbo?
yeah,
All right.
I think so. I don't know what the fuck cornhole is, but you know.
I think that's the worst question we've ever asked on this show.
There we go. I found that pretty interesting, honestly.
I've never seen this before.
I'm
I
sorry.
just googled it. I have no idea what this is.
It's the one. I think you would have
Oh,
played
yeah, I
it at
know,
Summer,
I know.
Russell. You know, with the bean bags, and there's like a wooden thing,
Oh,
and you
that
try
gets
and get
pretty
it in the
fun.
hole. Yeah, but it's such an absurd question. Okay, I think on that bombshell, we might wrap the show because we're a little bit over time, and I apologize for keeping you late. I did say we'd be finished at 10, and it's now 10:36.
it's all good. It's fine.
So what I want to do now is, if you want to say anything to your fans, to the people out there, if you want to, call Liquid a bunch of cunts, anything that you want to say right now, feel free to say, and then we'll wrap it all up.
I really got nothing besides thank you for having me on here. I really enjoyed it. I like to be involved more in the community stuff, and I'm talking to people that I usually would never get to talk to unless we're at an event and I'm being interviewed. But
Sure.
it's nice, like to be involved in something like this. So
Sweet.
thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks for
you.
coming on. We got you last minute. It's really good to get you. And with that in mind, maybe we'll get you again in the near future if we're needing a guest. So thank you very much for coming on. Striker and Prof, you guys got anything? We good?
I think
No,
that's just great advertisement for future guests, man. It's just fun to be here, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Oh,
Unless you're called Alu.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh shit.
That one was a
Yeah.
bit of a nightmare. But let's wrap this one up, guys. If you want to find the audio-only options, anchor.fm/HLTV. You know where we are right now. It's twitch.tv/HLTV.org. You can go over to Twitter at HLTV Confirmed is the Twitter page. And we're going to be back next Monday. We already have a guest confirmed, so I think we might promo that a little bit earlier in this week. It's going to be 8 p.m. next Monday. We're going to try and get guests for all of our shows and try and keep them on Mondays where possible. So yeah, thank you for Twistzz for coming on. Thank you for all of you for watching again. Today's intro was pretty bad, and so was the last question we asked Russell. So that summarizes today. Thanks again to Extrafy, and we'll see you all next week. Goodbye.